Well, there you go. Technical difficulties, folks. Sorry about that. I hope you can hear me. I was working on fixing the audio that we had problems with earlier. Anyway, welcome into Indaba, Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to the channel. This is Chris coming to you from Central Pennsylvania on the Stray Voltage random live stream on today, July 14th, 2020. Bastille Day, ladies and gentlemen. Le François partout du monde, on doit c'est bien. Aujourd'hui, c'est le jour de Bastille. Ouais, c'est bien, n'est-ce pas? Ouais. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Bastille Day in France. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Who we got there? Morton, Karen, Brett. Brett, what are you doing here? Weren't you over with listening to Ronaldo a moment ago? Anna Maria Jenkins, Aziobo. Ozioba, excuse me, yo. I saw the yo at the end there. Welcome, folks. Welcome in. My apologies if you tuned in earlier to the stream and you heard my microphone misbehaving. It's not the microphone. It's not the computer. It was actually Zoom. It's quite bizarre because my conversation with Dallen Stanford was brilliant. I could hear him fine. He could hear me fine. But what went out over the stream was not good quality. The good news is Dallen was fantastic, his audio quality, and that's what you tuned in for. Not to listen to me so much, but to listen to Dallen. So thank you, those who tuned in earlier to catch that. Really, really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. Anyway, so thank you so much, those who caught the stream earlier. I know a lot of people were dealing with load shedding in South Africa, and it affected the stream. People couldn't watch because they had no electricity, couldn't get it on their mobiles, and so it was a bit of a problem. But wherever you're tuning in today, from the United Kingdom, Canada, Uruguay, Uruguay even, or Argentina, yes, the gauchos down in Argentina, or folks in New Zealand, the land of the Kiwis, or Oz, also known as Australia. And folks in Africa, welcome once again to Chris Wide Africa. I'm Chris, and today we're talking about a number of different things. Let's see. Brett's got some questions and some points to make there. Let me get the chat open here very quickly. And I've got several news items to talk about from the U.S. and from South Africa and other places. So we're going to talk about those shortly. And we'll get right into that. I just want to welcome everybody that's shown up in the chat. Right. I know some other people are streaming right now, and some folks are coming from those streams. So take your time. Thanks for coming in if you're able to join the stream. Let's see who we had. Before the chat even starts, Morton is there. Good to see you. Karen, sorry. Brett, what's up? Well, had a very interesting interview. I really enjoyed it. It's a shame the audio quality from my microphone was poor earlier because Dallen Stanford was a brilliant guest, and it was, I think, a really good interview. Really enjoyed it. This was my inaugural live stream interview from someone from the rugby world for my segment called Rugby Ascendant. So that was kind of cool. And it was a great guest to have. Dallen is a South African/American, former USA Eagles Sevens star, as well as a world rugby commentator who does commentary does commentary for HSBC Sevens series. He also does commentary for the Colorado Raptors and Rugby Town USA, as well as Major League Rugby. And he has also been a broadcaster for the Rugby World Cup in Japan, where he was teamed up with Joel Stransky. If you missed that stream, I encourage you to go back and watch it. It was really good. Absolutely. And share it with your friends and your family. Let them know about it. Go check it out. Azioba, Anthony, good to see you there. Brett says, why was there a myth about French soldiers being so cowardly? It has a lot to do with the Second World War, Brett. That's where that myth comes from. Largely from that. The French have a long history of very aggressive warfare, particularly between France and England for many, many centuries. But also France is very successful. I mean, having marched all the way to Moscow, only to come back with a fraction of the army that he went there, Napoleon. But the reason is because of the way the French just gave up in the Second World War. The German Blitzkrieg outmaneuvered, outsmarted France's Maginot Line, which proved to be nothing but an anchor tying down hundreds of thousands of troops who were needed elsewhere, and they could not be moved rapidly enough to fight. And so scenes of hundreds of thousands of French soldiers surrendering in 1940 is the reason why France has that reputation. It's not fair, but it's a reputation. Corlia Fundabeva says, just after frickin' load shedding. Yeah, no doubt. Nigel, wrapped up like a mummy. I'm sorry to hear that you guys are so cold. The mic is much better. Yeah, Nigel, thank you for tuning in earlier. And my apologies for that, guys. There's nothing I could do. I kept adjusting things back and forth. It wasn't the microphone. It was the feed through Zoom. And that's really annoying. So I was very frustrated by that. But anyway, folks, welcome into the stream. I hope that... what is going on here? My stream is way behind over here. That's odd. Sorry, I'm playing it on the side here, and it's not current. It's like 3 minutes ago. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong stream. That's the problem. Okay. Never mind. That's the wrong one. Brett says the French battalion won almost every time they fought the Communist Korean War. They played a key role. Yeah, no, they did. Absolutely. Riyadh, good to see you there. Marabani, hey, hi, how's it going? Because it was full of Germans. It's freaking freezing. Yeah, guys are cold in Southern Africa. It is wintertime, and you get that seriously cold, big cold front having blown in from the South Atlantic, which has really brought snow to Bloemfontein. Yep. Ozzy says UK just banned Huawei from its 5G network. Yes! Excellent news. Excellent news. Huawei is a malicious actor in telecommunications and an intellectual property thief. The reason they have a 5G network is because they stole much of the technology to make it from other companies in the developed world. So, yeah, I'm happy to see that Huawei is banned. Yeah, good. Good on. I see that apparently someone said that Australia and some other country had banned TikTok application as well. That's news. The U.S. has not done that, but a lot of corporate America is telling its employees they cannot have TikTok on government, or not government, on their corporate servers, their corporate devices, their corporate handhelds. So Justigos says, bonsoir, monsieur. Well, bonsoir to you, Justigos. Welcome aboard. Okay, what else we got here? FFL India to China was so German. Erica, there you go. Erica, did you enjoy, I think you did. Did you enjoy my guest, Dallen Stanford? Wasn't he just awesome? Brett says UK could legally take back Hong Kong. China is violated. Yeah, that's true. But the UK with its 350 soldiers is going to do much about that, Brett. The British military is a sad, sad shadow of what it once was. Even what it was 30 years ago, we went to the first Gulf War. They don't have anywhere near the capacity they once had. It's really sad to see a once proud empire that has virtually no military capacity left these days. Erica enjoyed the stream. Oh, thank you, Erica. Brilliant. Dallen's a really good guy. He's a full energy guy. He's friendly to everybody, and he's got some really good stories. So I thought he'd be a good guest, and he was. It worked out well. Really enjoyed his presence here on the channel, especially for my inaugural Stray Voltage Rugby Ascendant segment. So that was kind of cool. Anyway, yeah. So how are folks doing tonight? And does anybody have any questions before I get into the news? I'll try and entertain some questions here. If you put it in the chat, and we'll try to catch up. Looks like a lot of people have hit the rack already tonight because we're going on 10 o'clock in Southern Africa. But let me get over here to the news. Now, I'll start. Let me come on. Here we go. Browser. Okay. There you go. Okay, so this from Breitbart. Trump's former Department of Homeland Security chief helped weaken the rescission or removal of Obama's DACA that led to the Supreme Court ruling. So if you have any questions about the deep state, ladies and gentlemen, here's the evidence. You don't have to look any further than right here. Former acting secretary for President Trump's Department of Homeland Security admits that she helped weaken the legal case for the administration's rescission of former President Obama's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. In September 2017, then Attorney General Jeff Sessions rescinded Obama's DACA program that has allowed nearly 800,000 illegal aliens to remain in the United States. At the time, then acting DHS Secretary Elaine Duke, a deep stater, a former DHS official under former President George W. Bush, signed the interagency memo to end DACA, but now admits she purposefully helped weaken its legal standing by not putting in any policy reasons for the program's decision. And that, of course, is the reason why the court struck down the executive order, or the ability for him to rescind the executive order, because they said he didn't give a reason. Well, he doesn't have to give a reason. It's an executive order. It only applies to the executive branch. But she intentionally did this. These are deep state operatives who are insubordinate, they're treasonous, and they act against the interests of the United States. This is just one example. We have so many of them. We can start with Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and of course, former FBI Director James Comey, and just the list goes on and on from there. These are people who operate against the interests of the United States for their own personal self-aggrandizement and or their ability to get favors and ties from other people in the deep state who support it. Very sad to see this sort of thing happen. This is one of the hazards with bureaucracies. They can undermine governance, and exactly what has happened there. And there are countless other examples of it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what else we got here. Marabani's latest episode is finally out. Oh, good. Thanks, Marabani, for sharing that. Marabani has another episode out on South Africa, and so you should check that out on his channel. Doc Breaker says, does USA still use the death penalty for treason? Yeah, it's always been there for treason because that's a federal crime. It's always been there. We just haven't executed anybody for treason. In fact, the federal government executed its first prisoner in, I think, 17 years last night. Still bouncing off the walls. Oh, you're bouncing off the walls because of Dallen? That's cool. Anna Marie Foster, in layman's terms, in U.S., what is far left and far right? Well, that's a good question, Anna Marie. And the problem is that the media describe what far left and far right is. Historically, what you would find on the far left are hardcore communists and socialists. And you would find even anarchists, although that's not really left or right. It was kind of considered to be part of that. On the far right, you would find groups that were anti-change anything, or groups that were regressionary, like the Ku Klux Klan. But the reality is that in this environment, anybody that says anything that's not conformist to one side or the other, mostly to the left, is considered the far opposite. So I've had people actually call me a far right person. I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? You clearly don't understand the political spectrum. I am actually a right of center centrist. I'm a conservative, but I'm a conservative on fiscal issues and less so on social issues, although I've become more conservative on social issues over the years as I got older. But I, in a traditional sense, would be more of a centrist and slightly right of center. And that test that you can take online about where your political ideology is, and that's exactly what it shows me. Right of center, but a centrist, not over to the far right. It's a tag that's used to minimize people, to undermine their legitimacy. That's the purpose of it. So that's an important distinction to understand, is that the press uses that, and people use on social media to undermine you. So, for instance, they'll call people like Mark Levin a far rightist, and of course they associate far right with racist, and so naturally they just throw that tag on there too: racist, homophobe, misogynist, all the little labels they can throw on there. It's funny because people, if you look up in Wikipedia, you'll see that when it describes fascism, it calls it a far-right ideology. Wrong, false, completely incorrect. Fascism is not a right ideology. Fascism occurs on the left and on the right. The National Socialist movement, the Nazi Party, was a socialist leftist party. But they're called a far-right party because of the political pollution of the terms, which is done intentionally to delegitimize people who are on the right. They weren't right at all. They were fascist. And they were leftist fascists. They just weren't as left as the communists were. And so they obliterated the communists. Then they went for the aristocracy. They went for the homosexuals. They went for the mixed race Germans, of which were about 30 or 50,000 as a consequence of French colonial troops being in the Rhineland for a couple of decades in occupation and knocking boots with locals and having mixed race Germans. And they were among the first sent to the concentration camps and the gas chambers when they were finally implemented. Yeah, so fascism is on both sides of the political spectrum, but it's lied about. And it's said that it's a right phenomenon. It's not a right phenomenon. It's on both sides of the political aisle. Anyway, fascists seek to diminish your ability to speak and have a voice. That's what it's really about for these folks. So there you go. I hope that answered that question. Well, let me see what else we got here in the chat. Brett says, what's the history of Mozambique like? Were they communist as soon as they broke off from Portugal? Well, yeah. So you've got Frelimo and Renamo. And the issue is with a lot of these black African nationalist movements, many of the people involved in it had very little interest in communism or socialism. It's just that that's where they could get support from. And so that's where they went. Now, there were people who were truly committed to socialism, like Julius Nyerere in Tanzania, and also Agostinho Neto in Angola, Abimael Cabral in West Africa. These people were committed socialist or communist. But most people did it out of happenstance or because that's where they could get support from. And most of the people on the ground, like in Mozambique, weren't communists. They didn't even know what communism was. They didn't care about it. They just wanted liberation and freedom. That's what they wanted. And Frelimo was the liberation movement, and so they supported it. And that's what it was about. Yeah, so, yeah, you could say they were communists from the moment they broke away, but only the leadership for the most part, not the average person, was a communist. And Renamo or Frelimo has not really been a communist regime since the peace agreement in 1992. They've trended more towards market capitalism than they have towards the left of center. If everyone's racist, then no one is wrong. Exactly right. Frelimo was communist, as where Renamo was more democratic. I wouldn't say Renamo was democratic. Renamo was a movement that was supported by the South African government to put pressure on Frelimo. And some of its members were simply a little more than thugs. And it became a political movement and became more democratic after the '92 peace. But yeah, they've never taken power, so that's challenging. We see where they really sit. Renamo. Dogburger says, I used to be left of center. After what the world narrative pushed a few years ago, I believe I'm right, libertarian, traditional conservative. Yeah, that's probably about where you sit. Thoughts on some more, Michelle? Yeah, he was a bit of a tyrant in Mozambique, but he'll forever be remembered because he died in a mysterious plane crash over South Africa, when he was leaving. So Samora Machel will always, and of course then his widow, famously Gracia Machel, married Nelson Mandela after he dumped Winnie Mandela. Rightly so, by the way. But yeah, so he'll always have that label, kind of like Kwame Nkrumah is always remembered as a Pan-Africanist and with a great reputation amongst a lot of people just because he was the first there. They quickly forget his tyrannical rule of Ghana and his abuses and his corruption and the fact that his own people unseated him. All they'll talk about is colonialism. They'll forget all the evils of Kwame Nkrumah. Now, I'm not saying that Kwame Nkrumah was evil. I'm just saying that his rule wasn't particularly good or effective, but that's not what's remembered about him. He's remembered as a great Pan-Africanist. Yes, Morton Rhodesians did establish Renamo, but they were supported heavily by South Africa, far longer than Rhodesia existed. So they got a lot of support from the South African government. Speaking of which, someone questioned something I had to say yesterday. Maybe it was Morton. Was it Morton in one of the comments in the chat talking about 1994 and the ANC? I'm trying to remember what that comment was. Anyway, not particularly important at the moment. Herman, there you are. Herman Roos, good to see you there. You're not going to comment again. Just prove that I do not know what. That's funny. Did I read about the debacle about the bike ambulance? I didn't know it was apartheid's fault, but I do know about the bike ambulances. That's pretty funny. Tian, hello, good to see you there. All right, so that was the acting Homeland Secretary, part of the deep state. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Let me get to this story now, too. What is going on here? No, sorry, the news is just come across. This is from the New York Post. Let me put this up. This is a story of a Marquette University freshman who has been threatened that her admission to university is in jeopardy because she posted a pro-Trump video online. She's a gun enthusiast, and this is from last week. I just thought I'd mention now. Incoming freshman at Marquette University said the Milwaukee school threatened to cancel her admission after she posted a TikTok video expressing support for Donald Trump, and that she has been threatened for it, according to the report. Samantha Pfefferly shared the video, titled, When the Libs Find Their Way to Your Page, in which she dances along with captions such as, when people see that I support Trump, then they try to hate on me and I think I'll change my view, and think I'll change my views. Anyway, she did this to some rap music, but she sang her own tune to the music in the background. It's been viewed as of last week over 600,000 times. I'd like to get that kind of viewership on some of my videos in South Africa. 600,000, that's impressive. But Marquette University, which is a Catholic school, right? It's a Catholic school. I think it's a Jesuit school, if I'm not mistaken, has threatened, she was threatened by one of the deans. Let me find this here very quickly. Let me see where it's at here. She said that Brian Troyer, the dean of undergraduate admissions, told her that her acceptance was far from sure. He had the heart to tell me I wasn't a student, she told the news outlet, adding that she had already paid for housing and she had a complete class schedule. If that doesn't make me a student, what does, she said. She later confirmed that the school finally informed her on Monday that last Monday they would not revoke her admission. Yeah, so they were going to take away her enrollment at Marquette University, a private Catholic school, because she expressed support for Donald Trump. Now, how can you get any less fascist than that? That's incredibly fascist. There's Samantha Pfefferly right there in a lovely outfit. Yeah. They also asked me if I thought there was anything I could do to improve my image on campus. They proceeded to ask if I was comfortable with the reputation I had established for myself. The assistant dean asked if I put any thought into the response I would be getting from my videos. The Jesuit school said in a statement that its admissions decisions are based on academic achievements and student involvement, not political views, adding that the report that the school might rescind the admission of incoming freshmen is false. Yeah. Concerns about this new student that were brought to the university's attention were not based on political affiliation, but on alleged use of discriminatory language. In this case, there were also concerns for the incoming student's safety, which were investigated by Marquette Police Department and discussed with the incoming student. Yeah, no, it sounds to me like it's a cancel culture, and they're trying to steal this young lady's future by denying her admission to this school. And that is shameful, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, this happens on a daily basis. And no, it's not anecdotal. No, it's not overblown. No, it's not fictional. It's true. True. Hammond, what are you doing with points there? I don't do points on here. Yikes. The Mandela release date. Yeah, no, there was another one, Morton. I thought it was you or something else. But yeah, no, I didn't imply that Mandela was released in 94. If I did, it came out wrong. He was released in 1990. But there was another one. Somebody said something about 1994. Maybe that was it. I'm confused. But anyway, thanks for that, sharing that, Morton. I appreciate you clarifying that. Yeah, so what else we got here in the chat? Just trying my luck. I don't have those points. I don't know how to do that. Also, I haven't really figured out how to use my Streamlabs to put up labels. Suppose you can do it, but I haven't really figured that out. So the only thing I have exciting on the channel, ladies and gentlemen, that animates is the zombies. So we get somebody to subscribe to the channel or become a member, Chris White Africa, we can watch the zombie climb the Mahalisberg. But I don't have all those other nifty things. Maybe I'll learn them at some point. But what I also want to bring folks' attention here is some other South African businesses so that if you're interested, you can participate in them. So here's a little outfit called The Embroidery. It's a South African business, a minority-owned business. Here you go. The Embroidery, celebrating the women in our lives on August 9th. Gift set launching soon. And these folks sell embroidered housewares, hooded towels coming soon. The Embroidery Box, exclusive to the Embroidery Box. Theme of the month, baby apparel. There you go. Limited availability of 5 in each size. And you can place your order. This promotion on the 27th of July. So this is a minority-owned business in South Africa. And you're welcome to check it out. I'll put the link in just a moment into the chat, so you'll be able to get to it if you'd like to get to it. But it's called the Embroidery Box, and it's from one of the subscribers here on our channel. So check it out. I keep wanting to say check it out because it was Ronaldo, but here you go. Kitchen towels. There's the catalog you can download. Home decor, his and hers, home events, babies and kitties. Yeah, so check it out, ladies and gentlemen. It's called the Embroidery Box. Let me put that link up for you guys in the chat, so you've got it in case you want to check it out. And once again, promoting South African businesses. So there you go. How many white people are left in South Africa? And do we still need BBE? According to, we will always have it until you get rid of the ANC. They're drunk mad on totalitarian power and distorting the reality in South Africa. So yeah, you're going to have BE for a while unless you get rid of the ANC. How many people are left in South Africa? Well, the last census said it was around 4.58, 4.6 million white South Africans. It should be around 4.8 million today, even with emigration. You still, natural rate of increase should put it about 4.8 from the last census. So just under 5 million South Africans. But there, in addition to those South Africans, there are also another 2.5 million white South Africans currently living abroad in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, United States, France, and other places around the world. Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Malaysia, Japan. Lots of white South Africans living abroad. But they're not alone. There's black and colored South Africans living abroad too for many of the similar reasons: lack of opportunity, discrimination, things like that. So I did want to share this with you guys. This is also interesting too. Let me see if I can get this up. Now this is the latest nonsense, and I like this from a black South African. So let me play this for you guys.
Oh, wow, wow. People are leveling up. So apparently, by being a black TikToker who speaks Afrikaans, you're racist. Now I'm having a hard time making sense of die logic. Well, that's the truth. Dan is ek ook rassisties. Want my vel is bruin en ek praat Afrikaans. Sien julle dit hoe dom dit klink? All I'm going to say is it's not the tool that's the problem, it's the people using the tool. It was never the Afrikaans that was racist, it was the people who spoke the Afrikaans that were. For example, if someone hits you on the head with a hammer, are you going to blame the hammer or the person who hit you with the hammer? The person, right? Furthermore, are you going to say, oh, just because that person used the hammer to hit me, I'm not going to use the hammer anymore? No, that'd be foolish. I think that's the most beautiful thing about our country. Like, it's a melting pot for cultures and creeds and everything. And so I think it's about time that we start learning new languages and connecting bridges, because that's the only way we're going to move forward together. Love and light.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, if you're black and you speak Afrikaans, it makes you a racist. Well, that's kind of sad for the 190,000 black South Africans whose first language is Afrikaans. That's right. There are black South Africans whose first language they grew up speaking Afrikaans. Yeah. So I guess they're automatically assumed racist according to the morons that spew this nonsense. So that was a pretty cool video. That was shared with us from one of the subscribers to Chris White Africa. So thank you so much for sharing that. And check it out. Anyway, that's interesting. Gert Jansen van Rensburg says, good evening, inmate. Sorry for being late. Load sitting. That's funny. And Rian saw Rian's birthday on that chart there when I showed the ad. Anyway, cool. So let's see what else we got here. And here's another business for folks. And I think I mentioned this one the other day, but let me bring it up again. This is for folks when you want to do business with South African businesses. So here we go. And this is Peace of Mind Clothing. And these are some of the products you can find. This is also from a subscriber to the channel. It has their own business selling clothing online. You can see some of the selections there. While, I'm not a big fan of the weed, nonetheless, I don't mind promoting a locally owned South African business. So here's some of the things you can get. I don't have all day. What does that say? Please hurry up. Okay. Leggings. There you go. Blue Star print leggings and some tees. Yep. Anyway, check it out. I'll put the link in for that. And that is Peace of Mind Clothing. So you guys can check that one out too if you like. There's two, the embroidery box and Peace of Mind Clothing. Two South African businesses. You guys are welcome to check those out if you like. Here you go. Nigel says, as long as there's one white South African, BE will be in place. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, then it'll still be in place, and it'll discriminate against Indians and coloreds until they're all gone. Yeah. Anyway. And so that's a couple businesses I want to share with you guys. Okay. So let's get back to the news here. By the way, okay, so in case you're wondering, it was approved. That's right. What am I talking about? Well, 86% of the voting interest on the debt of the 16.4 billion rand of debt owed by South African Airways, 86% of it, mostly held by banks, was approved. And so the rescue plan from Business Rescue for South African Airways is now approved, and we shall see what happens. South African Airways creditors approved a rescue plan for the struggling airline on Tuesday that requires at least 10 billion rand or 596 million in new funding, throwing the ball in the government's court to come up with the cash. State-owned South African Airways, which last made a profit in 2011, entered bankruptcy in December. And Administrator Siviwe Dongwana told a creditor meeting that the plan had been approved by 86% of voting interest. So there you go. So now the ball is in the court of the African National Congress and the Department of Public Enterprises under one Pravin Gordhan, who famously has been called all sorts of vile things by Julius Malema and the economic freedom fighters. So, Pravin Gordhan, the ball is in your court. Your bizarre idea to save this hideous airline. Now, I'm not speaking about the people who work for the airline. I'm talking about the management and operations of South African Airways. I'm not even talking about customer service and the actual in-flights. I've flown to South African Airways, and they're fine. But the way this airline has been run, like a fiefdom and a personal piggy bank for the patronage-loving ANC, is the problem. And so now the government's going to have to come up with $596 million, which it doesn't have, ladies and gentlemen, to rescue this airline just to pay off the debt. By the way, they also need to pay operating costs. The airline can't really fly much of anything right now, so what's it going to do? And by the way, it has almost no aircraft left. This week, today, they turned in another set of aircraft. Tomorrow, they'll return a third set of aircraft from South African Airways. So South African Airways, the incredibly shrinking airline, yep, they're only going to have 6 aircraft capable of long-haul international flights, which will be the bulk of their network after reorganization, downsizing from 39 to just 20 planes and lowering their employee count from almost 5,800 to 2,000, although that number's up in debate. It could be 2,500, 2,000. Anyway, cutting the airline in half essentially, leaving South African Airways with just 3 domestic routes in all of South Africa. So I don't know who those routes are for. Is that Joburg to Cape Town so the legislators can get back and forth? That's one. What are the other 2 routes going to be? Durban to Joburg, and then one more. And that's it. The rest of the country, too bad for you. You have to hope that Comair can come out of Business Rescue, which it should be able to do if it doesn't last too much longer. And then you're kind of stuck. There are other airlines, but the network that serviced 9.7 million passengers for South African Airways on an annual basis will not be servicing 9.7 million annual passengers. Simply not going to happen. Which leaves a lot of opportunity for other players to enter the market, assuming somebody has the capitalization and the resources to actually produce a new airline. Anyway, there you go. Johannesburg, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Durban, Johannesburg, Pretoria. Oh, PE. PE was the third one. That's what I was thinking. Thank you, Tion. Yep. Yeah, that would be the third one. If I should fly somewhere, no essay for me. Yeah. Bobby B says, woohoo, thanks for live streaming, Chris. I had a question for you. Okay, Bobby B, what's your question? I think you had some questions I didn't get to on the last live stream, so my apologies for that, but I can't get to everybody's questions all the time. So, George Johannesburg, hopefully. I wouldn't count on that one, Deborah. Deborah Olivier is hoping George Johannesburg. Not going to count on that. Herman says we'll take Joe Berg anywhere right now. Yeah, I think you're not alone, Herman. I think a lot of people would say the same thing. Time to pay up the ANC so the banks can get their money and all the other creditors get 3 cents rand. Yeah, exactly. Deborah, nope, but Sapphire and Kalula. Kalula belongs to Comair, and what Kalula does or doesn't do hinges on whether Comair comes out of business rescue, so we'll see. I suspect they'll be able to make it out of business rescue, but the longer this lingers, the worse shape that Comair is going to be in. Bobby B says, how can I help someone in Gambia with sending him seeds or finding him a scholarship to go back to school? Might be a scammer. Yeah, I'd be careful on that. Sending seeds and also scholarship for school. I'd really be careful about the scholarship for school, Bobby. I appreciate your generosity, humanitarian, but recommendation is that people never send money like that unless you know somebody personally or a family member or someone you trust knows that person. Tian says Comair will come out of this and flying before November. Well, yeah, okay, but Tian, the African National Congress has absolutely no idea what it's doing. It's completely lost. And the way they're going to try to continue this on a 60-day rolling basis into perpetuity. If we're in a lockdown in June of 2021, is Comair still in business? This November, I'll buy it, Tian. But if it continues, what happens? Yep. Deborah says, never flew SA for the last 10 years. No, I've flown them, and it was fine. Not great, but it was fine. Seeds, maybe I can do it for cheap. But Bobby, what kind of seeds are you trying to send? I mean, they grow things in the Gambia. So, Charles, well, have a good evening. Take care. Excuse me. Sorry, folks. Yeah. The aviation industry. No bail for Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, that's not a surprise. What planes are they keeping? Well, Nigel, I had that information yesterday, and I put that in my video. So I've got the note over there. I can't think of. They're keeping the A3. I want to say the A340s. Yeah, they're getting rid of the A350s. They're keeping 2 of them, and then getting rid of the other 2. They're keeping the A340s, and they're getting rid of almost the rest of the fleet that does long haul. So, yeah, I'd have to look to double check, but I had the actual tail numbers of which aircraft were being turned in. On the 10th of July, they turned in aircraft. They turn in more today, and tomorrow they turn in the last batch of aircraft. Kempton is loud. Oh, cold. Sorry, caught cold. Sorry about that, Emery. Thought they said loud. Stay in lockdown. Nobody will be flying 2020. Yeah, I think you're right, Tian. I think that's the bottom line. If we get past November, it's crazy. Lynn says, me from basketball. Thank you so much. Deborah Olivier asked where the pic with the hill is taken from, the little copy behind me there. So I've talked about that for Nigel. You know, the A340 is not the best choice. The aircraft has not been built since 2011. It's aging. It's not fuel efficient. Those aircraft have seen better days. And the 350 would have been a better choice, but that's not the structure they had. Oh, Ronaldo's stream just ended. I'm here now. Hi, hey, Robin. Hassan, good to see you. Maybe that's why we were a little thin on viewership, because Ronaldo ran extra hour and 10 minutes beyond the norm. Yep. Yeah, Tian, A340, 200 and 350s are long haul, but they're getting rid of 2 of the 4 A350s they have. The A350 is still in production. In fact, 2019 was one of its best years for deliveries. And it's a really good aircraft, actually, and it's much more fuel efficient. Hey, there's Yanni. Okay, look. Yeah, okay. Oh, you guys slide in here from Ronaldo's program. I see you coming in now. Well, welcome to those who've been viewing Ronaldo. Welcome to Chris White Africa. Don't be a stranger. Welcome back. Yeah, so Bobby B, tomatoes, cucumbers, any veggies that can be grown. Thought maybe you might now know of reputable charitable. Yeah. Deborah, I'll get back to your question. I didn't forget it. I don't know of any in the Gambia. I don't have much experience with the Gambia. I mean, I know where it's at. I know about the Gambia, but I don't know anyone in the Gambia, so that's a tough one. Bobby, send me an email. Maybe we can try to figure something out and sort something out. But my recommendation normally is not. Now, if you're going to mail seeds, if you're allowed to do that, they don't weigh much, so you could give it a try. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that to help someone out. Listen, I appreciate where you're coming from. And yeah, look at that. We had just a huge spike there and people just coming into the stream that were over watching Ronaldo. Well, welcome, guys. Anyway, so, when I was in Uganda, I had a guy who was not a gardener. And he approached me. He'd been a guard, and they had cut some guard positions at the U.S. Embassy, and he was desperate for work. Very nice fellow. And he said, listen, I'll be a gardener for you. I'm happy to do it. And I said, I really don't want a gardener, but okay, I'll tell you what, I'll do it, because he was a nice guy. And I gave him a salary, which was not overly inflated. You can't inflate the local market. People think, oh, I have to give this much, especially Americans. Oh, let's pay this much. And then you distort the outcomes in the marketplace, and also it's not sustainable. When you leave, the next person hires that person, they're not going to pay them the amount you paid. So you've got to find a fair wage. I pay a bit more than the local rate if the work is good. And so I hired him, and he would come back to me and say, hey, I could do this if I just had this equipment. And so I'd buy a hoe, or I'd buy, a rake or something like that. And he did a brilliant job. He was amazing. Great guy. Did a really great job. Worked really hard, dedicated. And so I gave him bonuses frequently. And then I sat down and made a deal with him, because he said, I asked him what he wanted to do in life. He said, well, now that I've done this, I really enjoy this gardening. It's actually fulfilling. I enjoy it. So I'm thinking of starting a business where I do it. I'll do different people's lawns and property and keep their gardens up to date. And so he was curious, and he said, but it's hard to get information. So what I did, because he worked really hard for me, is I went into Amazon. I ordered some books on agriculture and for gardening, which were shipped to me in Uganda, and I gave them to him as a gift. And I'll tell you, they were dog-eared. He was reading them, learning about them all the time. And when I left, I made a deal with him, because I was leaving on short notice. Instead of spending 2 years in Uganda, I just spent the 1 year, because I went to Ethiopia. I was promoted to full colonel and moved to a full colonel's position. So when I left, what I did is I made a deal with him. I said, listen, I'd like to help you get your business started, but it's going to have to be for your business. And so we set out a deal, and I gave him a big, what I called a severance package, which is equivalent to probably about a couple $1,000s. He actually used that money to start a business, and I gave him a lot of the yard equipment that I didn't need, that I'd purchased so he could keep my place up to date. And it was now his property, so he had the seed capital, and he started a business. Now, I haven't been in touch with him for about 4 or 5 years, but he actually turned it into something. The problem in Africa is that oftentimes when you do that for somebody, even if they're earnest and serious about doing it, it falls apart. But this guy worked really hard. He was serious about it. He had a serious plan. He wasn't one of these guys who take his money and go off to the club and drink. He was responsible for his family. So I didn't mind doing it, but I knew him personally. And so that's the thing. It's difficult to help, because you wind up being taken advantage of, and you don't really help anybody if you're taken advantage of. Safety First is talking about getting Wyan Tutoy on here. I sent Wyan Tutoy an email message. I haven't heard back from him. So if anyone knows him, reach out to him personally. I don't know him personally. Okay, so Deborah was asking about the copy behind me there. So let me just do that very quickly. That hill, for those who don't know, is now 7 people left. Did you leave because I mentioned Ronaldo? Come on. But that hill is on the motorway between Swartrugens in the west, going past the exit for Royal Bafokeng. That's actually traveling from the right-hand side of the screen to the left-hand side of the screen. If you were to take the left and go off the exit, actually take a right and go underneath, that takes you to the Royal Bafokeng Stadium. And you continue up the road. It starts to go up a hill straight. And this is a view out the driver's side, the right-hand side of the vehicle, into the Mahalisburg. And that's where they call Elephant's Neck. And you go up the hill, and then you descend down into Rustenburg. If you take the left to Rustenburg, you take the overpass and turn right, you're at the Waterfalls Mall. And then if you were to go straight after turning right, you would wind up in the Mahalisburg. So that's what that is. That's a photograph that I took when I was down there last time, driving back from Haberode. I passed Zeerust and then Swartrugens, and then you get further almost to Rustenburg, and that's the view. It's quite beautiful. I loved it. I also like the fact that those are coniferous trees there in the high veld. It was pretty cool to see coniferous trees. So quite a beautiful spot. Quite a beautiful spot. Anyway, so I thought people liked that. So that's just kind of become my thing. I wear rugby shirts on the program every broadcast, and I also have that in the background. It's just kind of my shtick. So... yeah, Hendrik de Klerk says Ronaldo's stream was over 2 hours tonight. Yes, I know. I had to leave there to start my stream. I didn't know he was doing that. Oh, no, Yanni, he's not challenging my marathon streams. Ronaldo has never done a 4 hour and 20-minute stream. We'll see if he can do it. Hey, Yanni. Yeah, so Deborah, that's the copy. Sorry it took me so long to get to it, but I didn't forget. But thank you for the reminder. I just saw the reminder, but I did get to it. Take 5 has been without power for at least 36 hours. Wow, that sucks. I feel bad for you. They're all showing up now. Yeah, well, they did. Then some left, Hendo. Blakeman is guilty. That's okay, guys. Nobody feels good. Listen, you are welcome to watch whatever you like on YouTube. There's some good content, and there's some cock content out there. Some bad stuff, too. But find what you enjoy and watch it. Life's too short to not be enjoying it, especially under lockdown, whether you're in the United States or elsewhere around the world, including South Africa. Nigel says, let's be leftists and condemn the latecomers for watching his channel. Yeah, well, shame them, bleary lefties. Take 5. So the weather's been very abnormal this side. Been the first week, really, that we've been below freezing. How's the weather? Well, the weather here is actually outstanding. I'll tell you. Today was nice. It got a bit warm, but I went out this morning and ran. Actually ran for the first time in some time because my calf is healed. It's a bit warm. It is currently 86 degrees, which is about, 34 Celsius or something like that? 34. Yeah, I think it's about 34, 35 Celsius. So 86 degrees. It was 90-something the other day, but the humidity is much lower today. It's a beautiful sunny day, so quite nice here. It is, remember, summertime, opposite northern hemisphere by southern hemisphere. So there you go. Let me see. Bobby says, one of these days I'm going to hit a dislike just to be a jerk. That's fine, Bobby. I get a dislike on every video now, every stream, even a stream I haven't watched. Now, the odd thing for me, I found this puzzling, is that somebody unsubscribed to my channel for the stream with Dallen Stanford 2 days before we even did it. What is that all about? Why would you go in and click on the video and then see that it's 2 days later and then stop being a subscriber? I think those are trolls playing games, ladies and gentlemen. Anna Marie Jenkins did manufacturing. You did manufacturing milling for the A320, the A350, and the Oh, cool. That's interesting. Cool. What do I think about the traffic in Lagos? I've never been to Lagos. I've been to Abuja, but the traffic in Lagos used to be hideous. But as I understand it, parts of the city, it's much better now. Actually, Lagos has been improved quite a bit in the last 20 years. It still has a really bad reputation. Deborah, you're most welcome. It's my pleasure. Robert was on Ronaldo's stream. Okay, cool. Anyone know Chris's email? Okay, there's a video explaining how to find my email. There's also a tab on my channel that you can go to, and I'll show you guys that once again. But it is there, so just go check it out, unless you're just being cheeky. Who ran out of data? Somebody ran out of data? That's funny. By the way, the image on the cover for this stream today is from the Rugby World Cup 2019. That was the South Africa-New Zealand game in Yokohama, which was the first game I attended. Disappointing the outcome, but it doesn't matter. The trophy came home to South Africa in the end. But losing to the All Blacks is never a good day. And that game was especially disappointing because the Springboks easily should have won that game. But anyway, neither here nor there. But for that game, that was the program. I keep my programs from all the Rugby World Cup games I go to. So I have them going back quite a ways. So what I'm going to do is go to my channel here and then show you guys what you need to do to find as soon as it loads. Okay, so here we go. Right, I'm going to put the browser up again very quickly here so I can show folks, if you're new to the channel, although I don't think probably a lot of people here know. So here's what my channel looks like. And so you see the home, and then you have videos, playlist, community, membership, channels, and about. If you go to the About channel right there on the right-hand side, you'll see a description of the channel, the date that I joined YouTube back in 2006, the number of views I've had. Anyway, describe the channel. Then down here, details for business inquiries. Click on that, and it will reveal the email address. Now, I'm not going to do that because it'll show up on the stream, and I don't want it to show up on the stream. So what you do is you click on that. It's going to give a little box, and you have to click on the box to prove that you're not a bot harvesting email addresses, and then it will reveal the email address. You can do that. Go ahead and write to me. And folks know that, in fact, I do, read those emails. I'm up to date. There's nothing new. I've answered everything that I found in there. So if you want to find my email, that's where you go find it. Okay, so check it out. Okay, what was that? 7 pupils died from COVID. The idea that kids are asymptomatic is rubbish. Who said kids were asymptomatic? Take 5. Certainly not me. What people have said from the outset, and the one thing that the officials have gotten correct, is that children under the age of 5 are far less susceptible to it than others. And they don't know the reason for that. But very few children have died from this disease. Very few children become sick from it. Very few. As a percentage, it's a infinitesimal number. It's very, very small. In fact, the people who are most susceptible to it are a group of people who are not children of that age. So anyway, I'm going to hit who up on Twitter. Okay, hit the tab button. You only see it if you have a computer. Oh, yeah, you can't do it on the mobile phone. That's yeah, well, if you watch it on different platforms, you can't. Ooh, Lynn says it's -4. That's my kind of weather. Erica likes the shirt. Okay, blue's her favorite color. That's cool. Lack of power corrupts my Wi-Fi, just in case. Okay. No, it's okay to dislike. I've disliked one or two videos. If you don't like it, that's fine. But hey, speaking of like, why not like this video? Give it a shot. Go like the video, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. What's this? Pink, the singer, did she get COVID-19, Lynn? Pink, the singer? I hadn't heard about Pink. Yeah, she's had some good music, but she's kind of an unusual bird. But anyway, yeah, so I hadn't heard about what happened to her. So take 7 kids out of 4,000 deaths, less than, well, yeah, it's not even a fraction of 1%. And the other problem with this too, folks, is that these actually people dying from COVID-19. We've seen so much of these Cook statistics. Now, okay, let me clarify this very quickly because some people get very concerned when they're. Let me be clear. I have never said that this was not a dangerous virus. I have never said that it's not highly infectious. It is highly infectious. It is highly dangerous, especially if you have an underlying immunocompromised condition like type 2 diabetes, tuberculosis, HIV, cancer, things like this, where your body's already fighting to survive and it gets hit with this, it can be very deadly. So that's all true. But it's also true that the hysteria, the politically motivated hysteria over it is off the charts. So this year, based on the past couple years' data, this year, the estimate is that 35,000 people in South Africa have died from HIV-related causes. 30,000 from tuberculosis. That's from January till now. 4,000 have been attributed to COVID-19. We don't even know if they're actually from COVID-19 in some cases. The mortality rate is incredibly low. We were lied to and told it was 3.2 to 3.4% by the World Health Organization, the Chinese Communist Party, by government officials all around the world, including South Africa, here in states in the United States, and even Dr. Fauci, because they didn't know. They were calculating the information incorrectly. And they had no idea how pervasive the virus was in the general population. And so they perpetuated this myth that 3.4% of the population would die from it. Now, when you compare that to Ebola, which runs between 40 and 90% fatality rate, depending on the variant and the conditions, it pales in comparison. But by comparison, influenza, the normal influenza from year to year, typically kills 0.1 to 0.15%. So 1/10 to 0.15% of 1% of those who are affected by it. This is a little bit higher, and it's because it's hitting people who have comorbidity. That's the real problem. So, yes, 7 kids die. That's sad. But how many kids died today from HIV who were pupils in school? How many kids died in traffic accidents today in South Africa and the United States? See, this is the problem when the media is dishonest and governments are dishonest and they don't put things in context and explain what's going on. So listening to Cyril Ramaphosa say that, well, we're going to ban alcohol because traffic accidents are up. Well, of course traffic accidents are up because more people are on the road. And just to claim there's more traffic accidents and you attribute all of them to alcohol is insane. That's simply not the case. So that's the problem I have with this, is the hysteria and the distortions and lies about it all. Take 5 says, when do you think we're going to reach the threshold of global warming, a point of no return? Well, not in our history, not in the history of Homo sapiens. I don't think that's going to happen probably for a couple million years until the sun becomes, well, a couple billion years when the sun becomes a red giant. I think that's when we'll have a problem. But no, global warming, the threshold, no, I'm not buying it. We've seen far warmer temperatures on this planet. We've seen far less glacial holdings, far less frozen tundra in the past. And we've seen far higher concentrations of oxygen in the atmosphere and far higher concentrations of carbon dioxide. We can see this from ice cores. We can see this from soil samples, from lake beds. It's just the nature of the planet. It happens. Now, before anyone freaks out, am I denying that there is an abnormal level of carbon dioxide released in the environment as a consequence of human activity over the past 2 centuries by burning fossil fuels? No, I'm not. There has been. And we probably shouldn't be putting as much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere like we have been. But technology and science is what will get us out of this. Ladies and gentlemen, the ozone layer was disappearing. Remember chlorofluorocarbons 30 years ago? The ozone layer would completely disappear and we'd all die from radiation within a matter of months unless we did something. Well, we did something. We came up with the Montreal Protocol and we banned the production of chlorofluorocarbons, stopped using it, and came up with alternatives, which had a major impact on the home cooling industry and the automobile industry because you can no longer put CFCs, refrigerant, which was very effective, into cars. Yet the ozone layer has completely recovered over the Antarctic, and it's back to normal levels now in less than 3 decades. We've seen this movie before. We can repair things. So I don't think that we're at the stage where it's going so far. You can't believe the hysteria that people run out there because they only report part of the information. It's like the nonsense about fracking. Fracking has led to earthquakes. Really? Or, okay. Fracking has caused, contaminated water. Really? How does fracking cause contaminated water when the fracking goes straight past the water table and it seals off the water table, nothing comes up through the water table? Anyway, it's just people that don't know science or use science intentionally to distort the arguments. Anyway, Pink is not from Namibia, so cannot come on this channel. Tian. Oh, yeah, I'll take Pink on this channel. Chris, what about a 15% heart function? What about a 15% heart function? That's terrible. Somebody have 15%? Ooh, that's terrible. I know that I had a problem with my chest, and I went to the hospital years ago, at the military hospital, and they turned white, the nurse. I said, what's wrong? Because I blew into a flow meter. And they said that I was breathing at 19% of lung capacity for someone my age and my gender. And they admitted me. And then they put me on a nebulizer. And then I was back to 90-some% pretty quickly, but about after 20 minutes on the nebulizer. But that was because I had an allergic reaction to something. Are tornadoes, Take Five's got a lot of questions tonight. Are tornadoes and earthquakes as bad in the States as what's depicted in the movies? No. I've seen the movie 2012. It's not like that. Yeah, earthquakes can be quite bad. We've had some horrific earthquakes in Alaska in the 1959, I think it was, when it became a state. Horrific earthquake. The earthquake, the Northridge earthquake in California, the one that took place in San Francisco in 1989. These are really bad earthquakes. Yeah, it does happen. Tornadoes can be quite devastating. I've nearly been wiped out by a tornado on more than one occasion in the Midwest. I lived in a trailer in Ohio. We moved, and a week later, that trailer had been picked up by a tornado along with 3 others next to it and lifted through the air and carried probably about 3 kilometers away and dumped in a cornfield. We clearly would have died. The whole place was empty. No one was living there at the time. Yeah, tornadoes can be quite bad and quite scary. But it's not like watching Twister. It's not quite like it can be like that for some folks. But the problem with tornadoes is that we're very susceptible to them in the Midwest. It's a real problem. Everyone has somehow ignored the facts and statistics because they believe anything the mainstream. Well, not only that, Robin, but people are inclined for some reason to simply be sheep and do what they're told. Now, I'm not saying be obstructionists or civil disobedience, but clear, cogent thinking adults ought to be able to hear information and question it and say, okay, you know what? They're right. I think we need to follow this advice. This is the right advice. But for instance, I was in a store the other day, and I told this on Ronaldo's show yesterday, but I'll share it again here because some of you weren't at Ronaldo's stream yesterday. And I was in a store that's going out of business, not because of COVID-19, but because of poor management and a bad business model. They finally were. COVID-19 was the death knell. So now they're having a sale. They had this on sale. I saw this through the window, so I went over and got this because it was really cool. Today's word of the day is freedom. Freedom. So I got that little wood carving, 50% off. I thought it was kind of cool. So I bought that, and when I went in the store, I had a face covering on, like a cash in transit robber, bank robber. And I walked in, and it kind of slid down below my nose, so it was hanging right here. And the lady in a snarky fashion says, because I wasn't sure where to go because all this plexiglass up, and I don't know where the till is. So I'm standing there, and the gentleman says, whatever her name was, Pat, help this gentleman. And she goes, oh, just come around to this side, and I'll help you. But you need to lift up that mask and cover your nose. And I walked around, and I adjusted it because it had fallen off, tightened it up. And I said, I'll do that, ma'am, but I'm not required to wear a mask. I have a medical condition which exempts me from this requirement. Well, I don't have to serve you. I said, you're right, you don't. You're under no obligation to provide service to me. In fact, the store doesn't have to take me as a client. But by the same token, I'll be happy to wait for someone who's not hysterical and afraid of the unknown. And she gave me a dirty look. And I said, what are you afraid of? The client before me, the customer before me, you took cash from. She took cash out of her purse and handed you cash. You touched the same note physically that she had. We're standing 8 feet apart, over 2 meters. You got plexiglass between you and me. I'm using a contactless method of pay with a credit card. And you're worried about getting sick? I'm not sneezing. I'm not coughing. I'm not exhaling on you. There's plexiglass between us. Yet you're willing to take the currency from a woman who took it out of her purse and hands it to you. Now, how do you think you get this stuff? By touch. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about. This hysteria. They've convinced so many people who have no concept of infectious disease or how things work that simply breathing is going to cause you to die. Now, could I have gotten COVID-19 in circumstances? Absolutely. But the likelihood is infinitesimally low. And the hysteria is dangerous or more dangerous than the actual virus in many circumstances because it's reinforcing bad behavior. Me wearing a handkerchief over my face doesn't protect me. Now, if I had it and I coughed, it would protect her. But anyway, it's not comical because it's serious. Really sad. Hat says, I have a colleague whose father died of stage 5 lung cancer. His certificate says COVID-19. Yeah, I would sue to have that changed. I would not want to be put down if I was the family. Sean says, I've been bombarded with propaganda. Save lives, stay home, wash hands. Not a people about drink water, get vitamin. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Sean. There's not any discussion about maintaining a healthy immune system. In fact, when the South African government tried to criminalize exercise, that was as damaging as the virus itself, if not more so. Unhealthy people are the reason the virus is propagated. If people aren't healthy, if they eat poorly, they don't rest properly, their immune system's compromised as a consequence of being worn down, and they're not exercising to keep their body finely tuned, it contributes to the spread of the virus. Yet they did the things that caused those conditions to be exacerbated, and then arresting people for jogging. It's ridiculous. Eating properly, sleeping properly, limiting your stress, and managing your lifestyle are just as important as wearing a face mask. Anna Marie Jenkins, takes 5 says 7 lives are far too many. Let's not get used to the no statistics, please, brother. What do you mean the notion of statistics? I mean, so all right, take 5, but you're doing exactly what you're saying to Tian. You're saying let's not get used to the notion of statistics, but you're offering 7 lives. That's a statistic. So I'm not trying to criticize you, take 5. I'm just trying to say that people are not keeping a clear level head about this thing. As I mentioned, how many kids are dying from malnutrition? Well, Deborah, Olivia, and what about the number of young boys and girls that have been molested by their parents who now have access to them to molest them 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And before anybody says anything, no. Ladies and gentlemen, incest is rampant the world over. Sexual abuse is rampant the world over. And it's especially wicked in South Africa and Botswana. I know. I've been there. I've lived there. People don't talk about it. These are things you don't talk about in polite company, but it's true. And when you force people to be together 24/7 like this, what about all the children who now get a proper meal now because their parents never provided proper food for them, and the only solid meal that they ever got each day was at school, and they haven't gotten that for 4 months? Yeah, this is the unintended consequences, the lack of forethought, the lack of planning. So, for instance, if I were in charge, if I was the leader responsible, and I imposed this draconian lockdown in South Africa and prevented children from coming to school, the group least likely to acquire this. Now, there are children with undermined immune systems that should have been protected and isolated, and a mechanism to deliver education to them should have been thought about and delivered. But the group that's least likely to get this and get serious consequences from it. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I was trying to make a point. But anyway, it'll come back to me. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, and if these kids, they're in school, now you've got them out of school, and you've got hundreds of thousands of kids in South Africa who are not getting proper nutrition because they're not being taken care of by their parents who either can't or won't take care of them. And so my plan as a leader would have been, if I forced kids out of school, is I would have had a mechanism in place to ensure that all those kids still got a healthy meal each day. Those who were necessarily living on public assistance or going to school and only getting that meal. And I would make sure that food was delivered to those kids through the schools and make sure the schools still produce that food, thus keeping people working at the schools, keeping the supply chain running, keep the demand up for purchasing food, and deliver the food to those kids. But no, they just shut it down without any thought about these kids. Lynn says, I was due to go into Grace Hospital for hernia surgery. They're not. Yeah, I heard about that. Absolutely true. In 9 years, Biden said so today. What's in 9 years? What did I miss? Take 5, not saying lives don't matter. What was said is for months, kids are at the lowest risk, which is still true. And for me, my kids are staying in school. Yeah, folks, okay. No one's attacking each other in chat, and I'm not trying to say behave because you guys aren't misbehaving, but I don't want people to get the wrong idea. Thank you for, Tion, thank you, Take 5, for contributing to the conversation, and I hope no one took it the wrong way. No one's going after anybody here. We're having a cogent conversation. These are useful things to talk about. I think the real issue here that Tion, VJ, and I are probably in agreement is that I think we both believe that governments don't know, and they've told us that we don't know, and they have no humility or are willing to admit they don't know, and that's part of the problem here. And so they're not acting rationally. Sphere was nearly 41% during the time of the dinosaurs. Exactly right. This is why we had such huge trees. Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. You are correct. Because the trees love the carbon dioxide. They eat that stuff up. And we had such huge leaves on plants back then. Yep, exactly right. Sean says, I think the Earth's core will cool down. Yeah, eventually it will cool down. Eventually the magnetic movement of iron in the core will lose part of the magnetic shield that protects us from the sun's radiation, and that could be very bad for us. But that won't be in our lifetime, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Sean says, and destroy the magnetosphere before our sun goes supernova. I don't know our sun's going to go supernova. That's not big enough to go supernova, Sean, unless you're just being cute. Let me see what else. What do we miss here? I'm way behind. It's all fear porn, really. Yeah, I think that a lot of it is, but it is dangerous. But the problem you have to be careful here is that people are concerned, and people will mistake what you say if you say that and just dismiss this. You have to be upfront and say, listen, it's a dangerous virus. It's highly infectious, which is true. But tuberculosis is also highly infectious, ladies and gentlemen. Highly infectious. Kills 1.4 million people around the world every year. Tuberculosis. But we didn't shut the world down for it. By the way, people with active TB, that's who wears a mask, so that the droplets from the active TB don't come out of their body and get on you. That's what purpose of wearing a mask. Nigel says, please explain to me then why is it been shown that gas coming out of tabs that burns were fracking? It's been done. Well, listen, Nigel, I can show you taps in southeastern Ohio that methane comes out of, and you could light the tap. I lived in a place like that, and there was no such thing as fracking. It's a natural occurrence. Methane comes up through the ground. And when you dig a borehole or you dig a well into the ground, you oftentimes release a vein of methane that's produced underground and comes up from decay. And it can come right up your water pipes with your water source. It's an easy way to transport it. And if there's enough of it, you can light it. Also, you get sulfur in there from gas. And so when you say it's been shown, I've seen videos from idiots like Michael Moore who intentionally distort the reality and not tell the truth. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible for that to happen. I'm just saying that the narrative has been distorted and has been misleading. That's what's going on. Herman, you delete your message. Why is that? Yeah, the Tornado Chasers is kind of cool. I like that movie. Is kind of fun. Bobby B says, I once heard Thomas Sowell say that 90% of the world's tornadoes are in America's Midwest. Didn't fact check it. I don't know, but that might be true. But remember, the rest of the world has typhoons and hurricanes and all sorts of other things. It's probably got a lot to do with the terrain, the location of North America on the globe, and its rotation, all these things, because they're seasonal. We don't get tornadoes year-round for the most part. It occurs in certain parts of the year. So I don't know if it's true that's 90%, but I wouldn't be shocked. The Bay of Fundy on the east coast of Newfoundland there from Canada is the place where you see the tides rise and fall like, 20 meters. Yeah, every day between morning and night. So the boats that sit in the Bay of Fundy, I think in St. John is where it's at, where I've been there before. And I was in my Hilton, and I looked out my window, and it was in the water. And then I looked out hours later, and they were sitting on the soil. The entire water had been sucked out because the moon pulls it because of the way the land is shaped. There's an island outside. And anyway, so all that water gets sucked away by the gravitational pull of the moon, the Bay of Fundy. So, yeah, and there's also a river that changes course. There's a river that comes down there about a couple kilometers up from where that water is. And when the water is pulled out by the moon, it changes the direction of the water. It goes, I think it's clockwise, it's swirling around, then it goes anti-clockwise, something like that. It's really wild. But look it up, Bay of Fundy in Canada. That all has to do with the gravitational pull of the moon. But the moon is slipping away at about a centimeter per year. So don't worry about it, not in our lifetimes, but eventually it won't be there. It'll be too far away. And that will dramatically affect the Earth's climate and our vegetation and our ability to survive on this planet. Because one of the reasons why life arose on here, if you believe in evolution, is because the amino acids that formed and developed strands of RNA and DNA were made possible by the tides and the shifting of the ocean, mixing things up, and the chemistry that took place. And if we don't have the moon pulling on the water with this gravitational pull, then we won't have the tides, and will dramatically affect life in the seas, and it will affect our lives. All cool stuff, guys. I love the natural world. The Earth is a really cool place. We got a cool home. Take 5 says, how do you think COVID-19 pans out for people with autoimmune disorders like Graves' disease. I don't know about Graves' disease or rheumatoid arthritis, but basically what we've been told, and I believe it based on the evidence, is that any underlying immunocompromised system is something that's going to make you more susceptible. Just think about it. It makes sense on a common sense level. If you have something your body is fighting for to keep you healthy, because it's underlying, part of your defense is already devoted to something, it's a distraction, and now you get hit with this very virulent thing that's also highly infectious and you can't deal with as well. That's why healthy people tend to do well. Herman says, good night. I have to go to bed, running a premiere tomorrow at 7:30. Is that AM, Herman, if you're already gone? That's kind of late for me. It's 1:30 in the morning, but I'll check it out after I get up. So cool. Looking forward to your video. Bobby B, the second best American word, liberty is the best. Liberty is awesome. Freedom is pretty cool too. SJ Wheeler, good to see you again. The only reason I was on Ronaldo was because you were on the, well, thank you, SJ Wheeler. It's very kind of you. I enjoy watching Ronaldo. I didn't know he was going to do that, the call-in. He did mention it when we were on the program last night. He would be doing a call-in, but I didn't know it was going to be today. Erica, were you jailed? We can break you out. I think Erica's not in jail. Yeah, Erica, when someone like you says you love freedom, I'm inclined to listen. You've definitely lived in the worst of circumstances and have seen what things are like when you don't have freedom. So I'm inclined to listen. Wilhelm Winter says you don't really need to cover your nose. It only protects you from droplets if you cover your nose. However, it's better to cover your mouth so you can protect others. Well, exactly. It's the same reason we don't just walk around and go, you have courtesy to cover up, when you sneeze or use a tissue or something like that or a cloth. It's brainwashed sheeple. Yeah, there you go, Hendo. I think that's a lot of truth. Sean Mandich says, unless we forget a mask does not kill. Right, the mask doesn't have any what's the word I'm looking for? Not viricide, but it doesn't have anything that kills the virus. That's exactly right. It's not treated. My new name says, hi, y'all. Watch this Unthinking Chosen with Gilead Atzamon. No more news. Has a bit of COVID, but very informative. Solidifies many conspiracy theories. Okay, well, thanks for that, my new name. Take 5 says, what staples do you eat most in the States? Here in South Africa, it's pop, cooked maize meal. I know what pop is. I've had pop. It's disgusting. Here come the flaming comments from South Africans. What are you talking about? Pop is wonderful. No, it's not. It's bland. Ugh, not a fan of pop. I've eaten it, but I'm not a fan of it. Staples here are maize, sweet corn, beans, potatoes, especially potatoes, that sort of thing. And when it comes to meats, we tend to eat lots of chicken and lots of beef. There you go. Also a lot of seafood. How do you think COVID-19 pans out? People already, I answered that. How do I get back to that? Did you ask the question again? Chris, and my heart function. Yeah, I'm sick of masks too. I actually can't breathe properly when I have the thing on, so it's a problem. Erica says, what worries me is we may be losing herd immunity with all the sanitizer. Yeah, exactly. Well, Erica, to me, it's the same sort of thing with these people that they're clean fanatics, and they wipe things down and they use sanitizer all the time in their houses, and they're always, clean. And then their kids grow up and they're not exposed to anything, and they develop no immunity for a lot of these things. I mean, when we were kids ate dirt. You played in the dirt. You fell down, you scraped, you rolled around, you played football, you got dirt in your wound. Then you came in, you cleaned it, you put methylate on, and it burned, and then you put a Band-Aid on it. But people aren't getting exposed to things. It definitely has a negative impact on immunity and our immune systems. Okay, Bobby B. Okay, Wilhelm says, what do you think of NASA? Wilhelm, I think NASA is a brilliant organization. It's a national treasure. That said, it has been subject to political interference over the years, and particularly during the Obama administration, NASA changed its policy, which George Bush Jr. set up to get folks back to the moon and also to get us to Mars. And then Obama changed that to collaborating with the commercial industry, which I don't have an issue with. And we see the outcome of that, like with SpaceX, which is good, and Boeing as well. But they decided to use probes instead of trying to get people back into space. And there's a lot of problems with that, not the least of which is China's trying to put someone on the moon. They're going to beat us to it, which actually matters. It's not simply a question of national pride. It actually matters because the Chinese will go up there and claim the moon. They won't just show up, plant a flag, and leave. They'll claim it. They'll try to build a base and use it. So it does matter. We all love each other. No hate. That's good. Dogburger says, funny true story. I was in the Northern Hemisphere, had a few drinks, phoned my sister awake, and asked her to look if... Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't do that. Pop and Brivelies is the magic is disus. Yep. You're going to be fired by South Africans unless you eat your pop, says Erica. I didn't say I don't eat pop. I said I don't like it. You guys are just descended from Boers from the Second Boer War who just, ate hardtack and salty cracks and had that pop. Oh, I saw a hilarious image that somebody sent earlier about the moon must be must have been colonized by the ANC because it's basically a desert and nobody lives there. That was pretty funny. Yep, that was pretty funny. What else we got in the news here? I want to bring up a few more things in the news. I already talked about South African Airways, did a little promotion. Oh, here we go. There's one. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you've just woken up, and I'm sure you haven't, South Africa is currently under an alcohol prohibition. But funnily enough, not funny, but sadly enough, the Sudan, long under Sharia Islamic law since the 1980s, is easing restrictions on non-Muslims. So the 3% of the 42 million people who live in Sudan now can purchase, consume, sell, and import alcohol. So congratulations to the Sudanese who are not Muslims, because you can drink alcohol now, but your compadres in South Africa cannot purchase alcohol. Thank you, African National Congress. So speaking of which, here from Deutsche Welle, the German news agency, Deutsche being German and Welle being wave, the German wave, we have a situation in which South Africans are not happy about this alcohol ban. Coronavirus, South Africa's new alcohol ban sparks fury. A decision to reimpose a ban on the sale of alcohol has angered many consumers in South Africa. Health experts say the move could free up much-needed hospital beds. I disagree. What's that? Whoa, Deborah Olivier donated. Is that 140 Rand? Wow, thank you so much. And I love seeing the zombie climb the Mahalyasburg. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you very much. I give you a salute for that. Very kind of you. I appreciate that. By a donkey. That's really kind of you. Awesome. I'll use that for hand sanitizer. No, I'm just kidding. I have plenty of hand sanitizer because some people accuse me of being a bit of a prepper. No, I'm a military professional, and so I'm prepared. My car is full of petrol. The only thing I'm not prepared for is I don't have a firearm by my side. But then in this neighborhood, I don't really need one. So anyway, Bobby B tells Deborah to be saluted by the military is a high honor. Oh, cool. Take 5 says we can't. Wait a second. I gotta read that in a different thing because I can't read it there properly. Why can't scientists design a rapid test kit for COVID somewhere? Well, we have a rapid test kit, Take 5. We do. The United States developed a rapid test kit within a matter of weeks after we got the RNA code from the Chinese, who covered it up for 9 days while the world got infected and all their people slid out of China, going to Italy and carrying the virus with them and spreading it around the world instead of locking the country down. We do have a rapid test kit. We've had it now since February, sometime in February. I might be wrong. It might have been March. But we have we have multiple different test kits. We have blood test kits. We do PCR, polymerase chain reaction, which is the same way we can also test the early stages of HIV infection, looking at the RNA. So we can do that for the virus. And we also have rapid test kits, and the U.S. has been using them. We've been using them for some time. The U.S. has tested a lot of people. In fact, I don't know how many. It's a lot. Let me see what the current figure is, if it's actually available for U.S. testing. So number of U.S. COVID. Death. The first thing comes up is death. Tests. There you go. Number of U.S. COVID-19 tests. That's what I want to see. Come on. Where's it at? U.S. now has more COVID tests than it knows what to do with. Yeah, exactly. That's from June 27th. Around 83 tests per 1,000 individuals. Yep. Let me see if I can find it by the numbers here. Anyway, thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate that. Super chat's really kind of you. Cool. Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time focusing on super chats and e-begging because that really wasn't the purpose of the channel. But it is fun when folks do, and I really appreciate the support for the channel, folks. And I do put it to good use, although I've never been paid by YouTube yet. That will happen eventually. They'll send me money. The U.S. has done, as of July 14th, today, Bastille Day. Woo, les Français, c'est le jour de Bastille. 42 million tests. So we've tested 2/3 of South Africa's population here in the U.S. Now remember, they don't just test people willy-nilly. If you call into a clinic and say, nope, you don't meet the threshold, those aren't the typical symptoms, so they don't test you. And even when people come in, they don't necessarily test them when they see a person. They may run another test. So the number of people who get tested is limited, but still we've tested over 10% of our population has been tested. That's pretty impressive. Of that, we've had 3,750,000 positive tests. So 9% of the people who get tested, which is a fraction of people who are ill and even smaller fraction of people who are in the country, 9% of those people are positive. There you go. So there you go. Right. Yep. So scientists can develop a rapid test kit like HIV. We had one. So Yeah, Wilhelm Winter says it's not 100% effective. Well, neither is the rapid test kit for HIV, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me, I've run HIV programs all over Africa and established them. Whenever we get someone with a rapid test kit that turns positive, we do an ELISA test. We test their blood and to confirm it before we start telling people that they're sick or that they're infected. Robert says, I always hit the like button. Well, cool. I just want to see how many likes we got there. 33 likes. Well, okay, got 46 people watching it. 34 likes. Okay. But thank you guys for the likes. You guys are talking about Maxwell. Okay. Let's see what else. Where's that here? Harley says, do you think Epstein and Maxwell were spies, possibly for Israel? Eric Weinstein suspects it, and Acosta backed off Epstein because he was told he was an intelligence. Yeah, if you're talking about Jim Acosta from CNN, the guy's a moron. He's an utter ass, self-aggrandizing, preening gas bag. And he's incredibly rude and disrespectful. The guy has no credibility whatsoever and should just be ignored. Anything that comes out of his mouth is just garbage. So I don't know whether he was covering Epstein or not. The problem with Epstein and Maxwell is that these people knew a lot of well-connected people. And whether people did something wrong or not, they don't want to be associated with those names because that stink won't come off of them. Look how quiet Bill... Have you ever heard Bill Clinton keep his mouth shut for this long? Never. Never. Is it because he's guilty with sex slaves with Epstein? Probably not, to be honest. It's because his name is associated with Epstein and he has no defense to say why he knew the guy or hung out with him without drawing attention to himself. So he's quiet. Super quiet. And that's what's going on here. So people are backing off. Probably in the case of Acosta, this little sycophant, maybe one of the buddies who pays his way or someone he wants to lick up to so he can get a better job or position, might be somebody who potentially was involved with Epstein, so he just shut up on it and talk about it. Yeah, Lynn says hit the like button. Please do. 45 likes. Okay, closer. We're doing better there. That's almost as many as we've got in the stream right now. Bobby B says, oh, he's talking to Robert. I think that Chris will have to do that. I have no connection to the military, but he might. Okay, what do I have to do? What are my connections? I missed something there. Maxwell. Maxwell, is she the daughter of Robert Maxwell, the incredibly rich newspaper publisher who died mysteriously on a boat in the Caribbean? Or not in the Caribbean, in the Mediterranean back in the 1990s? Is that who she is? Is she the daughter of that guy? If she is, then I wouldn't put it past the fact that she could be a spy for Israel because Maxwell was, in fact, providing information to the Israeli government. And people have always speculated conspiracy theories. That's one of the reasons why he was bumped off. Anyway, Lynn's got to go. Have a good evening. Take care, Lynn. Okay. What's with the mean face, Anthony? What are you upset about? Look at me. I'm Jim Acosta. Yeah, look at me. I'm Jim Acosta. Yep. Bobby B. We were planning a chat. Wide extraction. Eric and Robert just stealth helicopters. We'll put them in whisper mode. That's what I love about. What's that movie with Mel Gibson where he's what is that movie? I can't think of that. He plays a cab driver, but he actually was an intelligence operative, and his head was messed up, and he doesn't remember it. And the black helicopters come into town. They try to take him. Hilarious. Oh, it is Erica. So she is the daughter of Robert Maxwell. Wow. Interesting. Youngest daughter of Robert Maxwell. That's interesting. Yeah, Robert Maxwell. I remember him because he started a newspaper called The European, and The European was the first newspaper in Europe that habitually used color ink for its newspaper. But what I liked about The European, more importantly, is in the early 1990s, The European was one of the few sources of news on what was happening in the Balkans, in the former Yugoslavia. And I was covering that since I didn't have access to classified information. Even though I was in the Army and I was an intelligence officer, the system was archaic back then, and it didn't reach the low echelons where I was at the tactical level. So we very rarely saw any information of value. And what we did see wasn't coming from sources that were particularly helpful. So I relied on the open source media for quite a bit of reporting, and there were a lot of brave combat journalists who went to the Balkans and lost their life, and reporting on the conflict first in Slovenia. Not too many died there, but then in Croatia, in the eastern, in the Crimea, in Vukovar and Vikovici, in eastern Croatia, and then when the conflict spread into Bosnia, and they were deeply involved. And so the European did a lot of fantastic coverage of the events and helped set the players and reported accurate information, and they were great. And then Maxwell was bumped off or mysteriously died on his boat in the Mediterranean. Yeah. Anyway, he was an incredibly wealthy guy. So, wow, I didn't know that was his daughter. That makes sense, though. Yes, they are Jewish, and they have strong ties to Israel, that family. So, okay, interesting to hear that. She's Mossad, honey trap agent. Maybe. Alexander Acosta. I don't know who Alexander Acosta is, Harley. Sorry. Debacle about the bike ambulance was apartheid's fault. Yeah, everything's apartheid's fault. Conspiracy theory. Thank you, Sean. Is that what it was? 1998. What a great movie. I love that movie. It's hilarious. And that, Julia Roberts was in that, right? I think she was the other protagonist in there. Deborah Olivia, Chris, if I had 3 weeks to visit USA, where should I go? Grand Canyon. Oh, okay, great. All right, 3 weeks. Let's do this. Let me help Deborah out with this. Okay, so if you came to the U.S., let's pretend there's no COVID and you can fly and go where you want to go. It depends on what you want to do, okay? I don't care for beaches, so you're not going to see me going to Florida unless I want to go. If I had kids, I'd go to Disney World, that sort of thing. I'd take kids there. But beyond that, there's not much in the way that attracts me to Florida. So Florida wouldn't be on my list. I like mountains, so that'd be cool. But generally speaking, for tourists, what you're going to want to see is you're going to want to go to Washington, D.C., just because it's the nation's capital, the Smithsonian Institution there with amazing museums, amazing the Museum of Native American History, now the African American Museum, which I've never been in because there's always long lines. And then you also have the Space Museum, lots of things going on. So we want to come to D.C. just to see that. That's worthwhile. And if you're in D.C., there's a lot of things nearby you can see that don't take much time to go see. So if you want to see historical battlefields, you've got Antietam, which is just up the road, and then Gettysburg, which is not far away. And you also have the Chesapeake Bay if you want water sports in summertime. That's a great place to go for seafood and for outdoor activities, Chesapeake Bay. And then you got beaches on the Atlantic side by Ocean City. All of that's relatively closely contained, easy to do, and you could spend just a few days doing that. And also you can take the train up to see New York, and I'd recommend seeing New York. And if you have time, you might want to stop and see the important sites in Philadelphia, like the Liberty, where the Constitution was drafted at, and Independence Hall, things like that. But it's not necessarily a stop. But that's some things you'd all do right there. Depending on the season, if you came in the fall, you'd want to go to New England. Definitely go up to New England and hire a car, and then maybe land in Boston or New York and drive up through New England during the fall when the trees are turning in October. The foliage is absolutely amazing in most years, and it's a beautiful countryside, quaint old inns, lovely atmosphere, beautiful hills and mountains and such like that. And so it's lovely. The Grand Canyon, absolutely. But there's so many other great national parks to see in the continental United States. You've got Crater Lake in Oregon. You've got Acadia Park in Maine. You've got just so many things. You've got the Badlands. But going to South Dakota is really out of the way. So if you're here for 3 weeks and you had a hire and you made your way across the country, then I could help you map out some great places to see. Some people like country music, so you want to go to Memphis and Nashville. Nashville especially, that's a cool place to go. There's just so many things to see. The redwoods in California, these are all places I've been, by the way, for the most part. The redwoods in California are stunning. The Sequoia National Forest is amazing too. Really lots of amazing things to see. But I was saying South Dakota, the Badlands. If you go to South Dakota, it's a long drive, but you got the Badlands. Then you've got Mount Rushmore, assuming they don't tear it down or blow it up. What's going on this nonsense now? And there's Crazy Horse Monument, which is nearby. You've got the Black Hills themselves, which are absolutely gorgeous. You continue over, you go to Wyoming. You've got Devil's Tower, which is the center of an extinct volcano. The American historical tradition is that it was caused by a bear who was trying to climb, and he slid down, and his claw marks left. It's kind of cool. But it's actually the inside of an extinct volcano, and all the rest has been worn away by erosion. And it's amazing. Devil's Tower, it's called. It was in the movie Close Encounters back in the 70s. Close Encounters, that was in there. It was the place where they all congregated at Devil's Tower. And then you go further across Wyoming after Devil's Tower. You've also got the Grand Teton Mountains. You've got Yellowstone. Absolutely amazing. You got to see it. But the Grand Canyon is a sight in and of itself. If you get to the Grand Canyon, of course, you're not far from Las Vegas. So you go over and rock over and check out Las Vegas. It's pretty cool to see. But if you're in that neighborhood, you've also got Utah. Utah's got Bryce Canyon and some amazing things at Great Salt Lake. But the Great Salt Lake's not really that interesting to visit. You can see the Dead Sea in Israel. It's more interesting. There's an endless list of places to go in the United States. And what you have to do is say, what are the things you must see? And that's so in your case, you must see the Grand Canyon. So we can base everything off that. Start with the Grand Canyon. We'll build the rest of the trip out from that and do things that are practical and feasible. It's just the difference, though, is that you can go to Europe and just see one thing after another endlessly for 3 weeks. You can do the same thing in the States, but you only see a fraction of the United States because it's massive. It's 5,000 kilometers from one side to the other. It's 2,500, 3,000 kilometers from north to south at its peak. It's just, well, not that's actually Florida and Maine is further, but I'm talking about from Texas to Canada border. It's insanely large, and that's the continental United States. Then we have Alaska, which is huge all in its own right. And I've never been to Alaska, but I still intend to go there. And like if you go to Washington State, say to Seattle, which is amazing out there, Portland, Seattle is beautiful. If you go out there, then you got to go across the border to Vancouver and check out Vancouver and Victoria Island. It's just right there. So there's just so many amazing things to see. You could fill up the time easily, but you got to have a plan. If you have a good plan, you think it out, and you plan where you're going to get your hire from, where you're going to fly to from this point to the other. It's cool. But you could come to the United States and rent a car for 3 weeks. But what would happen is you drive from D.C. or New York across the country, stopping along the way, and then you turn around and come straight back, and you make it back just in time after 3 weeks with the car. It doesn't take a week and a half to drive across the country, but of course you're going to stop overnight so you're not exhausted. So most likely if you come for 3 weeks, you're going to come someplace, say the D.C. area, and then hire a car or use public transport, which isn't the best unless you're in Manhattan. But hire a car, do your trips here, turn the car in, fly to another part of the country, say L.A. or something like that, or Phoenix, get out there, pick up a hire, and then drive around that area, and that's how you do it, because it's just such a big country. But there's nothing like the amazing experience of driving across the United States. I've done it many times. It's long, but I've driven from Ohio all the way to Vancouver, across the United States, and went up into British Columbia, and then down from there to Los Angeles to southern Arizona. And then I've also driven from there to the Midwest in Missouri and all the way across the East Coast and back and forth. And I've done it many times. It's a huge country. Nowhere near as huge as, say, Russia, but my goodness, with 13 time zones. But it's quite an amazingly big country and so much going on. A lot of parts of the country are very thinly populated because we're so huge. Anyway, I hope I answered your question, but I'll be happy to answer more questions about that if you'd like. I did say Las Vegas. You guys are behind in the chat, or I got ahead. Did I deliberately? Okay, now, see, I'm way behind the chat because I did these things. Mount Rushmore, just to piss off the left. Yeah. Okay. Do you think UV radiation can be used on a mass scale to disinfect? UV radiation is effective for many viruses and bacteria, but we'd have to test it. I don't know. Chicago, Minneapolis, New York City. No, I've been to Chicago. It's not that exciting or impressive. Minneapolis, no. New York City, yeah. But I wouldn't go to New York City now. They're just murdering people in the streets. They're shooting people. There's no law enforcement. It's out of control. The Mayor de Blowhard, whose real name is Wilhelm, but he chose his mother's maiden name for some strange reason. I guess he didn't like his father. Erica's a mountain girl. Mountains and lakes. Okay, good. All right, we got the Appalachians here on the East Coast. We got the Rocky Mountains out in the middle. So Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, beautiful stuff. Wilhelm, where can you see a Saturn V rocket in the U.S.? The NASA Goddard Space, the Aerospace Museum. I think they have a Saturn V rocket there in Virginia. It's I think that's, but you can do a little check, do a Google, you can find out. S.J. Wheeler says, I want to go to Little St. James Island with absolute free access to everything. Okay, cool. Route 66, yeah, historic Route 66 is still there, but it's not that interesting. I've been on Route 6600. It was pretty cool in the 50s and 60s, but time has passed a lot of those places by, and of course, places, if they want to be in business and make money, have to be where the interstates are, and so that's where a lot of folks are. Let's see. Yellowstone is awesome. You get to stand on the world's largest nuke. Yeah. You're talking about the Yellowstone caldera. Is that what you're talking about, SJ? Yeah. Yellowstone is amazing. Bison, elk, moose. Just everything out there is fantastic. The hot springs, the geysers or geysers, depending where you're from. Really amazing. Take 5 is going to go per reverse roll. Okay, cool. Yosemite rocks. It's beautiful. Yeah, El Capitan. I've been there. Love it. NASA's cool, but in Florida. Well, NASA's also in California, Tion, and Maryland. The NASA Goddard Space Center is actually located in Maryland, just below Fort Meade, between D.C. and Baltimore, just below Fort Meade. So NASA Goddard Space Center, which does a lot of the work for space flights and research. The Rocket Propulsion, JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories out in California, and then NASA flies out of launches its aircraft out of or spacecraft out of Florida. Let's see. Did you deliberately leave out New York City? No, I talked about it. Hit up Vegas, fly over the Grand Canyon, feeling somewhat hungry. Yeah, there you go. Montana is interesting, but eastern Montana, whoa, boring. Only the western part of the country. Erica would love the western part. It's mountains, it's forest, it's beautiful. And then you've got Glacier National Park in the northern part there. And then, of course, that runs over into the Waterton National Park, which is on the Canadian side of the border. And you go across from Glacier National Park into Canada, into Waterton, which is at lower elevation. So you don't see the glaciers there, but it's also beautiful. From there, you go up to Calgary. Calgary is fantastic for the Stampede if you time it the right time of year. From there, you drive into the Rockies. And then, what's the name of the place? I can't think of the name of the place right now. A beautiful place in the Rockies. Then you continue on over to, you've got Lake Louise, which is beautiful up there. It's an amazing sight to see. Beautiful water up in the mountains. Huge lodge there. And then you continue on to Vancouver and Victoria Island. So much to see. And then hit Seattle on the way back. Pretty cool. Did Nigel leave? Oh, good night, Nigel. Where are we at? So we're an hour and 30 minutes here. Tried to calculate a route and it just said no. Okay. Deborah says, thank you, Christian. Enthusiasm infectious. I'm more of a country girl than a museum girl. There's lots to do from that standpoint, Deborah. We have amazing horseback riding and horse ranches in this country. Pretty much anywhere you go in the country, you can find a good place to go horseback riding. If you want to go skeet shooting, if you want to do fishing or hunting, all over the country, amazing stuff. We have natural beauty in this country. It's just really amazing. Harley, I did mention Colorado. I got to it. You've got some cool stuff out there. I was in Aspen last year for a conference in August before I retired from the Army. I was actually on leave at the time, and I spoke about alternative energy in Africa. And at that conference, after I left it, I drove through Independence Pass, which is one of the photographs I shared on this website, which is up in the Rockies, beautiful location. I drove back to Denver, went to a Colorado Rockies baseball game, and then there was a Christian singer who was singing there. She's hugely popular. I can't think of her name right now, but she was singing at the stadium, so I got to watch that concert for free afterwards. That was pretty cool. And then I've also been out there previously to do a conference on China and the energy sector in Africa the previous year, and I went to a Colorado Avalanche hockey game against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I can't stand the Penguins, so I was really excited about the Avalanche because I'm a fan. Lots of fun. Denver's cool, but there's just too many people out there for me now. Way too many people. And then you can drive up in the mountains not far from Denver, and you can go to the place where Buffalo Bill is buried, Buffalo Bill Cody, where he's buried up in the mountains there. Beautiful site. Been there. And then also the home of Coors Beer in Golden, Colorado is very close to Denver. You can check that out. I've done that as well. I've done the Coors Beer tour. Lots of cool stuff to see. And if you're there, you're not that far from the capital of Wyoming. You just drive up to Cheyenne, a few hours away. Cheyenne's a nice, quaint little town. It's beautiful. It's pretty cool. Love to see Anchorage. Yeah, I'd love to see Alaska too. It would be really cool. All right. So what else we got here on the news? Marbani, it's just that weird. Is it the whole of Europe? What you guys tell me about the Netherlands? What's going on? What's going on in the Netherlands? Okay, Chris, where haven't you been? Okay, good question, Robin. That's a good question. I have never been to India. I have only been to the airport in Sydney, so technically I've never been to Australia, which is where I've always wanted to go since I was a kid, and especially want to see Tasmania. I have never been to Latin America with the exception of Mexico and the Caribbean Basin. So I've never been anywhere below that, and I've never been to Russia. I'm not in a hurry to go there. And parts of Asia. So I haven't been to Thailand, Vietnam, place like that. But I've been a lot of places. So yeah, that's a good question, Robin. I have been a lot of places. That's true. New Orleans. Never been to New Orleans. And not really in a hurry to go there. Not interested. Mardi Gras doesn't do much for me. Mardi Gras is just Fat Tuesday. Literally, that's what it means, Fat Tuesday. I've experienced Mardi Gras in the name of Fasching, which is the German term for it, and I enjoyed it. My first Fasching ever was in Germany in 1984, and it rocked. I had a lot of fun, but I had enough fun to last me a lifetime, so I never need to see it again. It's kind of like Oktoberfest in Munich. Had a lot of fun in 1984, and I've never gone back. It's cool. Robert says, are you in Chris's WhatsApp group? You'll get my number there. Robert said, I don't know if he's in there yet, but he's welcome to it because he's a member. Hendrik says, must go to the home of the blues one day. Yeah, that'd be cool. Blues is really popular. Not much to see. The weather is great in July. Yeah. Morton is really not happy about being Mauritius. Most people are thrilled to get it, but I get it, Morton. You want to get home. You're hot fall. You're time to go home. Yeah, so let me see. I got a couple more things in the news I want to cover. So we covered the alcohol ban. People are upset about that. Now, this is an interesting development I saw in the news. I'm kind of surprised by this, and maybe someone knows a little bit of insight on it because this is one area I haven't spent a lot of time researching. So minister paves way for digital radio in South Africa. by Duncan MacLeod. This is today, Bastille Day, the 14th of July. Communications Minister Stella Nabani Abrahams has published a policy direction to industry regulator ICASA asking it to fast-track the licensing of digital radio broadcasting services in South Africa. Now, I have a question about that. You already have digital radio stations there. In fact, Man-Made Radio is a digital station. Ronaldo is a DJ, disc jockey on there. So what are they talking about here? Now they're going to license this? Are they sticking their nose into digital radio? What's going on? Very confusing. That's a nice-looking Kenwood there, that radio. Anyway, so describing the minister's move as a significant step that comes after a long and lengthy process. Mansfield said it will allow ICASA to finalize regulations dealing with digital radio and allow it to begin licensing. So is this just a revenue scheme, another way to make money off of forcing people to have a license to operate as digital radio stations? Well, that's not going to work very well. I mean, I could have a South African digital radio station and run it from central Pennsylvania and have South African content. In fact, on the television network that's going to come out later this year or early next year, that's Afrikaans based network for South Africa. It's going to be digital platform. And the plan is right now I will be offered a show on there, which obviously will be in English. We'll talk Afrikaans, among other things. But on that television network, I'll have a program on there, and I'll be here in the States when I'm broadcasting on South African stations. So not really sure what's going on there. Yeah, so they can regulate, control, and decide what gets transmitted. I'm not sure what maps you guys talking about. Why don't you just go to maps.google.com? That's actually pretty good. Erica was in Tasmania in November last year. Oh, man, I would love to go there. Love to go check it out. I will at some point. Is that like our digital TV? No, it's not like digital TV, I don't believe. Or they, maybe it's, see, we have satellite radio, which is digital. And so maybe that's what they're talking about. Norway. I've been to Norway, Tian. Good try. I've been to Norway. I've been to Norway a few times. Actually was in Oslo and been in the area around Oslo. I haven't been to some of the places I want to go. I always want to do the summer cruise in Norway where you go from Germany or from Oslo and you go up the west coast of Norway through all the fjords during the summertime when the sun never sets. And it's just really cool. I've never had a chance to do that. That's incredibly expensive if you book it outside of Europe. Say you do it from the U.S., they want to charge you like $4,000 or $5,000 per person for a cabin for a week, and it's just insane. You can get a cruise to Hong Kong for less than that and get a better cabin. But if you book it, say, from Germany, you can get it for very inexpensive. I remember back in the day, I could have gotten a cruise up there for like $300 for a week, but I just didn't do it because it's so far away. But yeah, Norway is nice. I prefer Sweden, and I actually really like Finland. Been to both of those places. Like Estonia, but when I was there, it was a lot less developed. Now it's more developed. So yeah, but of those four countries, my favorite would have to be Sweden. I really enjoyed Sweden. Been to Sweden several times. Picked up my Volvo there. Went to the plant in Göteborg and picked up. So with you Afrikaans speakers, how do you pronounce Göteborg? Because your G won't work because it's not Göteborg. it's Göteborg. So in Sweden, I've been to Göteborg. Picked up my Volvo there in 1994, and then the first 1,200 miles or 1,800 kilometers that I drove my car was actually mostly in Sweden. Drove around Sweden, went to Stockholm, to Uppsala, where the university town is, all over central Sweden, and all over Skåne, which is spelled Skåne, but it's pronounced Skåne. So anyway, Sweden's wonderful. I have ancestors from the Sweden, but we're talking about these are people who settled in Anglo-Saxon England that long ago, and also a group who married into a Dutch family that were Hanseatic trade leaders, Hanseatic traders from Middelburg in the Netherlands, and they went to Kalmar in Sweden, which was a Hanseatic city because he was a trader and he had business there. Wound up marrying a Swedish girl, and that's where my Swedish line goes back that way, back to the year 554, I think it is, in Boda, which is on the very northern tip of an island called, what is that island called? Öland. It's about a 60-kilometer long island, which is about a kilometer wide, so it looks like a long pencil or string in the Baltic Sea. Öland, and there's a little town in the north of it called Boda, and that's where I have ancestors back in the year 5-something. Pretty cool stuff. Set-top box. Oh, okay, maybe that's what they're trying to do. All right, gotcha. Well, that's helpful to know. Thank you. Did Norway in the summer, 3 weeks, awesome place, crazy Vikings. There you go, Tian. Excellent. Scandinavia. Yeah, Scandinavia is pretty cool. The Swedes are very patriotic, by the way. If Chris isn't available, hit me up. We can do a little rinky-dink channel. What are you guys talking about? Morton says, all I want to see are the World War I battlefields and monuments. Well, if you want to see World War I battlefields and monuments, then the place to go is France. Gareth says digital radio is like HD radio, but they've been planning decoder box. Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's not internet radio. It's like satellite radio, like XM, Sirius XM radio, which we have here in the States. Have you been on the garden route in South Africa? Deborah says, yes, I have. I've been on the garden route. I've been to Hermanus. I've been to Franschhoek. I've been to Paarl, and I've traveled on the garden route. Not all the way towards Eastern Cape, but portions of it. Really love it. Beautiful. Lovely area. Yeah, France and Belgium. And you're going to see, and if you go there, you're going to want to see the cemeteries too, especially the American Battlefields Commission, Battle Monuments Commission. They do an amazing job with our war dead in our cemeteries in France and in Tunisia. We have one for World War II in Tunisia, but we have others in France from World War I. And it's really amazing. They do an amazing job at Normandy and also the places in the eastern part of France where the U.S. soldiers fought in the First World War. Dad went to Kentucky many years ago to fetch a thoroughbred stallion. Wow, that's interesting. Bergen was lekker. Spent my time in a small town called Voss. I don't know Voss. I know people named Voss, but I don't know that town. But I know Bergen, of course. Bergen is beautiful. Wondering if I can hide in Chris's rucksack when he travels around the world. Yeah. No, it's, listen, folks, I mean, unless you're a Hindu or you're Shirley MacLaine and you believe in reincarnation, as far as I know, you just get one shot at this little journey of life on the planet and make the most of it. And when you see things like this black swan event of this pandemic where the world's air travel is shut down, you can't get from place to place, and who knows when it's going to end, I thank my lucky stars that I've never delayed traveling. Now, but by the same token, I've also always been responsible with saving money, investing for my future, setting money aside before I ever took any trips. I just don't travel extravagantly. So I don't stay in top-end hotels. I usually stay in chains or lodges or something like that. In fact, when I first started traveling, my friend and I slept in the back of his Volvo station wagon. We folded the seats down. We both had our sleeping bags. We slept in the Alps, and we got up, and we went to a bakery and bought some brötchen, went to a butcher shop, bought some lunch meat, put it in the cooler, and that was our breakfast and lunch, and we hit the road. And that's how we did it. And we saw the Alps, we saw Munich, we saw Garmisch, we saw Innsbruck, we saw we saw Liechtenstein, all in a 4-day weekend. It was amazing. So, yeah, just got to be smart about what you do. And you can see the world. I'm not a package tour kind of person, not really my thing. Don't really get into that much. Take 5. You need to tell me more about New Zealand, Australia. Well, I can tell you from personal experience of having been in New Zealand, it's really amazing, lots of fun. The one thing I found really stunning about New Zealand is I, for years and years, heard about the racial tensions and how Maori were mistreated and disregarded and such. And then I get to New Zealand, and it's like Anglos and Maoris are married all the time. They're all having kids mixed between them. And I mean, not just one or two, I'm talking lots. And then all the place names are in indigenous language. Well, they're not indigenous because the Maori aren't from there. There were no human beings. They came there. They migrated just like Europeans did, just a little bit sooner. And then they wiped out lots of the native flora and fauna. But the Maori, their names are everywhere. All these towns, Rotorua, all these places have these names. And so what I expected to be more serious racial tensions were there, but they weren't obvious unless you were looking for them, for the most part. But New Zealand's beautiful, but it's also on the Ring of Fire in the Pacific, so it's very vulnerable to earthquakes. And we've seen that in Christchurch just before the 2011 World Cup, a devastating earthquake in Christchurch. So New Zealand is amazing. It's beautiful. It has lots of interesting things to see. If you like beaches, you like mountains, you like hiking, you like all kinds of things, it is the place to check out. So that's New Zealand. Australia is amazing in its own right, but it's huge. It's huge. It's a continent. And so you got to really have a good plan for that. But I've never actually been there other than landing at the airport in Sydney. It's something I meant to do for years, but just couldn't get around to it. You can't buy SDR USB drive without obtaining a license. That's ridiculous. That's government overreach. Did you find the Shire in New Zealand? Yeah. No, the Shire is on the South Island, Hendrik, and I spent most of my time in the North Island. Take 5 says, where are all the white farmers heading to? Well, some white farmers have gone to Nigeria. A lot have gone to Georgia and other places. Morton says, proud to say I've traveled most of Southern Africa, but never been to the Cape. Nothing interesting to see there. Oh, that hurts. The Cape is beautiful, man. You got to check it out. Deborah's correcting me, saying the real garden route is Knisa and Sedgefield. Okay, cool. She's being cheeky. Harley says, I heard Anglo-Maori relations are relatively good. Yeah, they are. But for decades, I've been told that they were horrible, and it's simply not true, Harley, from what I've seen. It doesn't mean it's bad. It aren't instances of being bad, but it was pretty good. Have I ever heard of Edmund Bernardo? Oh, it is. Great guest in here. Yeah, I didn't know that was the guy's name. I have a subscription to that channel, but I haven't watched much in the way of content. Several people said that it would be a guest on my channel. So, by the way, Erica was here. Who else? I think maybe Hendo was here. A couple others. Nigel left already. But who caught Dallen Stanford earlier on the chat? If you caught him earlier, give me a thumbs up, or if you liked the stream, say you liked it. And if you didn't catch Dallen Stanford, please go watch it. I don't really pimp my my special features after the fact, but I really enjoyed that interview. And my sincere apologies for the mic quality, but it had nothing to do with this microphone. It was Zoom. And it was ironic because he and I could hear each other perfectly clear, and you guys couldn't hear me clear. But you could hear him clear, so really weird. All right, so Henrik, Yanni was there. That's right. I forgot about that. Watched about half an hour. Oh, come on, Gareth. Go watch the whole thing. It was amazing. No, I'm just kidding. Well, thank you guys for that. Yeah, I really enjoyed that stream an awful lot. So thank you guys for tuning in for that. And if you've gone back and watched it, thank you for that. Oh, thanks for sharing there, Yanni. Appreciate that. Landlord, is that landlord? Lives in Australia and has lived in Wales and Western Australia and Queensland. Is that what that is? Cape Town is like walking to a first world country. Well, Robert, not all of Cape Town. Cape Flats is not like a first world. The route in from the airport, not so much like a first world, but I get your point. Deborah says, I love New Zealand. My brother and family are there. The youth are a big problem with gangs. Yeah, that's true. That is true. You got an issue in Auckland. I don't think that's the case in Wellington. I could be mistaken. I really like Wellington. It's funny, though, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are South Africans, and if you know about the South African diaspora, New Zealand is, of course, a main destination for South Africans if they can get in. If you go to Auckland, you will find that much of the South African diaspora are white Afrikaans speakers. Nothing wrong with that. If you go to Wellington, you'll find that there's a large Afrikaans-speaking colored community, and that's the primary group of people who went there. It all has to do with the way people, when someone goes and they contact back, hey, man, I'm in this place, Wellington, it's amazing, you should come. And maybe it's a couple colored folks that get there first for work or for immigration, and next thing you know, you start getting concentration. The same with Italians coming to New York, Irish coming to New York and Chicago, and Germans and Scandinavians going to the Midwest like Minneapolis and to Minnesota and to the Dakotas and settling there. So you get like 80% of the population coming from that part of the world. Similar sort of thing. So it's kind of weird. In Auckland, mostly, not exclusively, but mostly the biggest density is white Afrikaans speakers from South Africa. And in Wellington, you see mostly colored South Africans. Really cool, interesting mix. When I was in Wellington for the Rugby World Cup in 2011, I stayed at the Hotel Amora. And I booked it online, and it said, Rugby World Cup special. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to get screwed. And I looked at it, and I was paying different rates based on the day because I was there for about 5 days, and some days were 4 days, something like that. But one day was like $100 and some New Zealand. Next day was 75. And I actually got a good deal, but I didn't realize it. So I said, what the heck? I don't know the town. I'll do it. It looks like it's close to the center of town. It was right on the waterfront. So I got to Hotel Amora. I checked it, parked my hire in the garage, and I went in. And it turned out that I was in the same hotel as the Argentine national team. So the Pumas were in my hotel in Wellington. And I was actually on the same floor with a lot of the players and the coaches, and it was pretty cool. So I actually got to meet a lot of the Argentinians. And, of course, I'm a Springboks fan, so I would typically be wearing, Springboks jerseys when I walk downstairs. And I walked down to the lobby, and the business center, which is to the right, conference room, was hired by the South African High Commission in Wellington. And someone's like, hey, Boca, goed it. I'm like, good. And I walk over and the guy starts talking to him like, hey, ek praat nie Afrikaans nie. And he says, what do you mean? You just spoke Afrikaans. He said in English. And so it was a colored South African who lives in New Zealand. And he goes, come on in. That doesn't matter if you're not from South Africa. And then they were applying me with free alcohol and free food, which they had every day. And I got to hang out, meet all these guys. It was pretty cool. And they were just amazed. So here I was, an American who's a Springbok fan who, maybe I don't speak Afrikaans, but I understand Afrikaans. And I live in Germany, and I'm in the Army. And here I am in New Zealand to follow the Springboks. And they just were amazed by that. I met the South African High Commissioner, had a really great time. Met some other really cool people when I was there. We talked about the earlier in the stream. I mentioned the Australians whom I met from the Australian Air Force, who were a couple there that were in Wellington. So, yeah, it was a really interesting time. Now, when Argentina played against Scotland, which was one of the games I was there for, I watched the U.S. play Australia. We got crushed, and Dallen talked about it earlier. At that game, we actually had a 5-0 lead over the Wallabies early in the game. We were so excited. Knew it wouldn't last, and it did. They lost 66-5, something like that. Anyway, but the next game was Argentina and Scotland. I was there, and that game it rained. It kind of sucked, but I was there at that game. And that night, I walked down because it was an evening game from my hotel, and the security were keeping people from walking out. And so I'm milling around. I'm standing there with the Argentine national team. They got their uniforms on and their jackets, and they're trying to go out to their bus. And so one of the security guys, because they knew me at the hotel at this point, is like, Mr. White, just hang out here with the team. You can go out when the team goes out. I'm like, you want me to walk out with the Argentine national team? And, of course, there's like 8,000. I'm not embellishing, folks, because part of my craft is to estimate crowd size. I would say it was at least 8,000 people outside the hotel. Now, I noticed it earlier because I was in my room and making a map of games I'd gone to and what I had left to do on the trip. And I heard noise outside. I looked outside and I saw a few hundred people downstairs with signs while the sun was still up. You know, the Pumas, and they're all cheering down there. But I was way up in one of the top floors. And so I went back to watching the replays of previous games and working on my computer. And then I wrapped up to go, and I went downstairs, and it was almost dark. I had a jacket on because the weather was cold for Scotland. And when I stood down there, they're like, just go out with the team. And some of the players, like one of the guys, like, grabbed me by the shoulders, like, yeah, okay, good to see you, because he didn't remember my name, but they had met me. And so we walk out, and I'm as if I'm a coach or a physiotherapist or a player or something, because I'm wearing blue, which is similar to the Argentine blue and white colors. We walk out, and the bus is out there, and there's like 8,000 people, and they're all cheering, and the television station's there, and the cameras are there, and we're all like waving. So I like wave to the crowd, walking with the Argentine national team, and I go out, and we turn to go in front of the bus because the crowd is right up next to us. Clearly not a COVID-19 situation. Right next to each other. We turn and go, and they start to board the bus, and I just kind of like, okay, guys, I'll catch you later. I just kind of work my way through the crowd and walk over to the stadium, which is about 1.5 kilometers away. It was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. Just little stories to tell. So anyway, Gareth is out of here. Okay. What's about loving life? My name says, I've been to the South Island a few times, camping. It's very beautiful, snow-capped mountains. Like, yeah, well, that's from the movies. Otis is calling for government to resign and promoting new leadership. Yeah, I would call on South Africa's government to resign. Clearly, they don't know what they're doing. Absolutely have no clue. Sure, Ramaphosa as much as told us all that just the other evening. So there you go. You've driven through, okay, fully agree. Right, driven from North USA to South. South Africa still wins. I'm not biased. Haha, my new name. I think you are biased. If you haven't seen all of the United States, how can you make that judgment? You haven't been to Alaska, you haven't been to Hawaii, you haven't been to the Grand Canyon, you haven't been to Crater Lake, you haven't been to the Rockies. Anyway, no, but I appreciate your love of South Africa. It's a wonderful place to love. It's a beautiful country with lots going on. Oh, yeah, here, let me something here. This is kind of cool. For those who don't remember, I'm going to be on for about 8 more minutes, then we'll drop off because it's getting late for people and I've got things to do. So here you go. It's been 25 years since Serbians slaughtered 8,000 Muslim Bosniak boys and men in Srebrenica, July 1995. Wow. That's not 20. Yeah, 25 years. Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine that? Wow. I was a young officer in the Army at the time, and I warned about this, and the Dutch peacekeepers didn't do much of anything. Along the same lines, very quickly, the UK is looking at releasing wild bison back into the United Kingdom for the first time in thousands of years. Bison will be released. Now, these won't be the bison that were native to the UK at one point because they're extinct, but these will be bison from Europe. The steppe bison went extinct 10,000 years ago, and now they're going to be bringing in other bison to the UK. Along those lines, the UK is also looking at rewilding to bring lynx back to the United Kingdom. Kind of cool. Check it out. There you go. Oh, yeah, and this one here. So this is not exactly news, but the reporting is, if it's news in the Daily Mail, immunity to COVID-19 may be lost in just a few months, and it could be caught again like a common cold. Yeah, so it's not going away, which is what some of us have been predicting for some time. You're going to have to live with this virus like you live with influenza, HIV, Ebola, Marburg, yada, 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 yada. You're not going to make it extinct. So we're going to have to deal with this in a more rational fashion. So if, in fact, you don't have immunity to it and you can get it again, that's not good news. And I already talked about that one. What else? Okay, so that's all the stuff I already talked about. That was the news I wanted to cover for you guys today. Just a little bit to get everybody up to speed. Behind Enemy Lines. Yeah, that was actually a surprisingly better movie than I expected, Behind Enemy Lines, with Owen Wilson, I think it was. S.J. Wheeler says, don't you think Donald Trump should be holding a glass? No, I don't. Donald Trump should be. No president in the 20th century should be on Mount Rushmore. Oh. We got the mix of people there. I think, actually, to be honest, that Teddy Roosevelt was marginal. His inclusion, I don't think, was necessarily right. But anyway, so yeah, that's it. We're done with that Mount Rushmore. Let's not anymore. add any more. Morton says, I'm looking at Botswana. Robert says, what to move to, Robert? Botswana is an interesting place. Pretty cool place. And if you're from the High Veld or from Gauteng or somewhere like that, it's pretty close to home, and it's very similar weather and climate, well, around Gaborone anyway. And it's a short drive to get back to South Africa, so it's a good option. Bothers me that South Africans don't stand up for themselves. Everyone wants to be keyboard warrior. Well, Robin, it bothers me that Americans sit by and watch people be beaten in the streets. We've had Catholic churches burned and assaulted in 7 states over the last past few days, and almost none of it has been reported by the mainstream media. We had a group of Catholics praying at a statue, and they were assaulted and beaten senseless by a horde gang of people. Police were called dozens of times. They did not respond. It's out of control. It bothers me that people aren't doing it. But now we actually have people standing up to it, and it's leading to confrontations in New York. We see people coming out with All Lives Matter, and there's assaults against each other on the streets. And, of course, Mayor de Blowhard has pulled the police back, and so people are being harmed, innocents. You see the heartbreaking photograph of the thugs who drove by in an intersection in New York, the father with his 6 or 7-year-old daughter, and the guy sticks his handgun out the window and murders the father right there on the street. And we had a 6-year-old shot to death yesterday, all because cities are not doing their responsibility of public safety, and people are dying as a consequence of this. And what bothers me is that leaders don't stand up for this. I've had a few people approach me and ask me to take a role. I have been speaking out and started doing videos about this lunacy here in the United States, and it has got some people's attention. But it's a difficult thing to do. It's not only something that's courageous, but it's courageous in many more ways than you think, because people aren't rational. People are ridiculous. This nonsense, this binary approach to if you say this, then you mean the other thing you're against. No. Gareth says, I'll catch Dallen later. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's a good stream. I apologize for my mic. I really had no control over it, guys. I wish I could have. That's shocking, Chris. Can't believe that it's not in your news. No, it's not, Erica. It is. Fox reported it and a couple of newspapers reported it, but it's not on MSNBC. And if it is, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning for 30 seconds. It's this. Let me say, when this fascist Nazi supporting clown attacked a black Baptist church in Georgia, I think it was, or South Carolina, and killed 9 people or something like that. That's all the news was. And, of course, they said, he's a Trump supporter. He wasn't Trump supporter, but it's Donald Trump's fault. Well, whose fault is it that Catholic churches have been attacked? By the way, there were Catholics in Mass on Sunday, and they tried to burn their church down with them in it. This is what happened this weekend. No coverage of it whatsoever. It's not shocking. This is the dishonesty of the media, ladies and gentlemen. This is the world we live in. And as a consequence of this, plus the broken education system in which we have activists, not teachers, teaching kids, teaching people to be ashamed of their ethnicity. If you tell a kid because they're black to be ashamed of themselves, then shame on you. You're an idiot and you're a racist. If you tell whites to be ashamed of themselves because they're white, shame on you. You're an idiot. You're a racist. But that's who's in our schools. That's who's running it. And these unions have so much influence and so much control. So, for instance, in Los Angeles, the teachers union there, which takes care of 700,000 school kids and around this, and 76% of them, by the way, are Hispanic. That Los Angeles School District Teachers Union is trying to block charter schools from going back to school, private charter schools. And they're distorting the argument, saying they get federal funding. No, they get grants for kids to go to those schools, not the schools themselves. It's really, really sad. Someone needs to step up. Donald Trump is almost the only one. There's virtually no Republicans standing up saying anything. Look at Missouri, what's happening. The couple out there whose home was invaded, they broke the gate down, they invaded their property, they came out of this multi-million-dollar mansion they have, he's an attorney, and they brandished guns, telling people to back off their property. They're about to be indicted and charged with a crime. I don't know what the crime is. Is it menacing? They were defending their property. They had lawful firearms. They didn't shoot anybody. They didn't threaten anybody. They were threatened. No charges against the protesters. In fact, that district attorney who's responsible for potentially charging them, they, by the way, confiscated their weapons. They came with a warrant and took their weapons. Now they're disarmed. So the next time these guys come, what are they going to do? Throw harsh words at them? Anyway, Tucker Carlson needs to go to Mount Rushmore. He should go to Mount Rushmore and do a broadcast from there. But ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. They're out to get Tucker Carlson. If he said something in a tweet 23 years ago, if he was overheard at a high school prom saying something that was slightly homophobic, if he didn't say something like that, someone will make it up just like they did against Brett Kavanaugh. They're out to get Tucker Carlson because he's exposing the left and the politicians on a daily basis. And Tucker Carlson is exposing Democrats and Republicans. He is a marked man. cherish Tucker Carlson while you can, because he will not be around much longer at the rate they're going. They tried to get, Trump's buddy there, Sean Hannity, and they failed. And I don't like cancel culture, so I supported Sean Hannity, but I'm not a fan of Sean Hannity. So anyway, there you go. Do I watch ABL Anthony? No, I don't know that person. I'll write that down. All right, folks, we're losing folks because it's about 2 hours. It's late in the evening, and I need to let folks get some rest. I think it's, 11:30 now in South Africa. So let me save that. I want to thank you all for tuning in. By the way, if you're noticing I'm not playing Giselle's music, it's because I'm getting tired of fighting the software. Until that's resolved, I'm going to hold back on her music most of the time. So anyway, Anthony Brian Logan. He sounds like an American. Okay, I'll have to check it out. So true around the world. If it wasn't for Trump, we really have. Well, we were headed that path, ladies and gentlemen. We had Barack Hussein Obama running things for 8 years into the ground and destroying the world. We already saw what this looks like, and it was just accelerating. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your patronage. Thank you, guys. Yesterday, by the way, is the best day we've had in Chris White Africa for viewership in a month. It was since June 15th, so it was nearly a month since we had that level. A lot of viewership yesterday, lots of views, lots of likes, lots of patronage of the channel. Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Tomorrow, my guest will be Evans Larrabee on the special feature, which will be at noon Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. in South Africa, 4 p.m. in Accra. He's in Ghana. So we'll be talking about small-scale commercial farming in Ghana, and he'll be updating us from his first appearance, which is about 3 months ago now on the channel. He's got some new developments taking place. So feel free to tune in on that if you want to talk about agriculture or hear about agriculture. And then I'll do a stray voltage stream later in the day to wrap that up. But that's tomorrow. And thank you all so much for your time. Appreciate it. Gareth says you got a lot of new subscribers. Yeah, in the last 2 days, about 200 new subscribers came on. Not enough. We need 10 million. No, seriously. But share it with folks. Please do that. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, about 40% of the people who come into the stream or to live stream or to watch my videos are coming in from Facebook. I don't advertise that much on Facebook. I do announce all my videos, but I don't have that many people that follow me on Facebook because I'm not a big Facebook person. That's a direct consequence of you guys sharing the content on there. So thank you so much for that, because that means that for all the people come in, that means about 40% of the people come in either from searching on the internet for something of interest or from another site or coming from Facebook. And that's people, it's a chance for me to get new subscribers and or members of the channel. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Yanni, thanks for posting that link to Evans tomorrow. S.J. Wheeler says, why the Stormers? We're going to need intervention, Chris. Well, Erica, thank you for the well done, but I got to give credit to Ronaldo because he was helpful when I was on his channel the other night. He did a little promotion for my thing, and that brought about 30 or 40 subscribers. So the rest have come over because some of them spread the word and people became aware of it and they saw the content. Plus, I had a video that did very well with about 2,500 views. Now, that pales compared to the one I had 35,000 views last month, but still it was a pretty good one. That was commenting on Cyril Ramaphosa's speech, and that got a lot of viewership. That brought in probably about 40 or 50 subscribers from that, so pretty cool. It's really neat stuff. We need to get Chris to 100,000. That would be awesome. Yeah, cool. Really cool. All right, well, folks, thanks a lot so much. S.J. Wheeler, the intervention, not going to change. I'm going to stay a Stormers fan. I don't know how I feel about the destruction of Newlands. Tearing down of Newlands. I'm kind of bummed out about that because I never got to go to Newlands. So we'll see. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. USA's number 2, Chris. Japan is nice for safe living. Okay. Thank you, my new name. You guys have a pleasant evening. God bless. Be safe. I'll catch you guys tomorrow here on the special feature at noon Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. in Botswana and South Africa, 5 p.m. in Namibia, 4 p.m. in Accra. And that will be tomorrow. Where's my closeout video here, guys? We need some more Rama, Chris. Where's my close? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to find my closeout video here, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. God bless.